Hello, everybody. This is your Cesar. Welcome to our live. It's a Thursday, so it's time for another OTT. Miss ko na rin gumawa ng OTT videos. But don't worry, we're gonna have a lot more OTT videos being prepared for you guys. Miss ko na rin actually gumawa nun. And yeah, we're just preparing for the seminars lang because tomorrow is day one of the Smart Kid program. And I'm very excited kasi yun yung first full course na ino-offer ng growth. And that's it. Okay, so this is your OT Cesar, your occupational therapist, online playmate, and your chief growth officer. Yeah, welcome to our live. And if you are here tonight, please add a comment, say hi, tell me what your dinner is, kung ano yung ginawa ninyo. I hope you're okay, hope you're fine, and thank you for being with me today. We have 6 viewers now, 7, Ayan, hello everybody, and yeah. So tonight is very special, and I'm very happy to be spending this with you because we're celebrating 2 occasions this month. We have Autism Acceptance and also Occupational Therapy Month this April. Hello, Clarice, and welcome to our live. Ayan, okay. So tonight we will be following still the 3-2-1 grow na format natin. Yes, our usual program, pero medyo longer lang tonight because we're gonna cover a lot of, we're gonna go deeper with autism tonight kasi nga we're celebrating Autism Acceptance Month this April. So hopefully if you have any questions, you can just ask and we'll have a lot of time to talk to each other and I'll answer all your questions and everything I know about autism for this month of April. Hello, Sir Mike. I am looking good, sir. Thank you, Sir Michael Angela, to Sir Mike. And hello, Ma'am Jean, hello po. Good evening. And thank you for joining our live tonight. Ayan. Okay, so we'll have our 3-2-1 growth tonight. Again, yung format natin, we have 3 questions, 2 toys, and we'll end with 1 lesson for tonight. So if you are following us on Instagram, you might have seen this story earlier today. So we're celebrating again 2 very special occasions this month of April. We have Autism Awareness Month. Dapat pala change yung sa story. It's already Autism Acceptance Month. And the reason why we're working with Autism Acceptance, kasi I think you see a lot of awareness na mga posts, di ba? Autism awareness or ibang awareness na causes. But we want to move towards acceptance dahil nga since we've worked towards awareness na a lot of people know about autism. They're very familiar with the term already and a lot of people can already also identify na rin people who have autism. So the next step when we talk about acceptance naman is we move forward towards thinking about solutions kung paano natin sila matulungan when it comes to having them join the community, forming a more inclusive, type of education, yung mga buildings, yung mga infrastructure na hindi lang natin sila ma-tolerate, bale. Okay, so tolerate is just parang natitiis mo lang or parang okay lang sa'yo na andyan sila. But when it comes to acceptance, we try to make changes na and adaptations in a way na makasali na sila and yung merong autism maging part na of the workforce, maging part na dun sa mainstream na schools, and they're able to participate in activities na normally yung people without autism lang yung nakakasali or usually kung saan sila hindi pinapapasok, okay, just because of their disability. So we want to make accommodations, also recommendations kung saan pwedeng maka-change ng policies or provide changes sa rules in a way na ma-accommodate yung challenges nila because of autism. Okay? So yun yung reason why we're shifting from awareness towards Autism Acceptance Month. Okay? So that we can work towards solutions together. And of course, another thing we're celebrating together this month of April is Occupational Therapy Month. yun yung profession ko. I'm an occupational therapist, and I'm really happy that they're being celebrated together because the majority of the population, of the clients I work with, of the children I work with, have autism, and they've really been, paano ba? They really formed in my practice as an occupational therapist, and sobrang happy ko rin every time I work with a child with autism. Sobrang saya marinig yung way din nila, the different way that they experience the world, and also their opinions, the way they see the world is really interesting. Kaya sobrang happy ko when I work with a child with autism. And if you have a child with autism, comment naman below, or if you have any questions on how to deal with your child, or how to improve your relationship with your child, and you want to ask me a question, you can type it down in the comments below para mapag-usapan natin in our live video tonight. Okay, so I hope you're still okay, and welcome to again sa dinner discussion natin with OT Cesar. Uh, So we received some questions kanina sa story natin on Instagram. And if you haven't followed yet, you can follow at OT Cesar Growth sa Instagram. I'm sure you're already following the Facebook page. And for tonight, we will deal with this case. We're gonna read the whole story. Medyo mahaba-haba to, but I think this summarizes a lot of challenges na pinagdadaanan ng marami sa clients that I work with. And this is actually from an OT na naging student ko before, and now a colleague of mine na she's already licensed, but I continue to get questions lang din from OTs na naging students ko before, especially when they're dealing with a more difficult case, or a challenge na bago for them. Okay, so right now, the way we're gonna deal with this one, sabay-sabay natin basahin, sabay-sabay natin pag-usapan, and also you're gonna see then the way I process, the way I come up with solutions when I work with children with autism. Okay, so basahin muna natin. Napanood ko po sa live ninyo sa Facebook about doon sa pagbang ng head kapag na-frustrate yung kid. Mag-ask, palakihin natin yung screen. Yan. Ay, na-cover na. Okay. Mag-ask lang po sana ako, Sir C, doon sa kid ko ngayon. Medyo nahihirapan ko kasi ako ma-determine yung why, the reason sa behavior niya, specifically the following. Number 1, pulling ng hair kapag nakakita ng mga bata or may nadaanan. Number 2, throwing at pushing ng mga objects kapag frustrated. So yun yung main concerns niya with the child. So big kid na po siya, at yung turo ng dating OT sa kanya, kapag ginagawa niya yung mga behavior na yun, kailangan calm lang daw sila. Kasi kapag firm, baka mas lalong gawin ng kid. Ako, teach, ang ginagawa ko sa kanya ngayon, nag-firm ako sa kanya kapag inappropriate yung behavior para malaman niya na hindi yun okay. At minsan, pinapapunta ko din siya sa parang room na konti lang yung stimulus para medyo calm down siya at ma-regulate sarili niya. Next. Pinapa-process ko yung behavior niya by saying no at not nice, yung pulling ng hair or throwing, at tinuturuan ko siya kung paano mag-regulate, like certain activities na nag-count kami or nag-use kami ng Play-Doh para mag-squeeze. Tama ba yung ginagawa ko, Sir C? Kailangan ba nila maging firm kapag nagpakita siya ng certain behavior like pulling hair at throwing? And in-explain ko naman sa parents na kailangan nila ma-determine yung behavior din ng bata kung kailan nila gagamitin yung firm. Hindi all throughout dapat firm sila. Kapag nag-firm or nagpagawa sila ng punishment, kailangan laging may processing na bakit yun ginawa sa kanya. At turo na kung paano yung gagawin niya to regulate. Okay, so this is from Aiko. Shout out to Aiko. Yeah, she's also an occupational therapist working with this kid. And before we work towards the solution, we're gonna talk muna about autism, since it's Autism Acceptance Month. And actually, inisip ko yung kanina, wala pa akong parang video talaga covering a diagnosis or covering a case. More on short tips lang tayo. So I was thinking maybe since it's Autism Acceptance Month, we can cover more about a specific diagnosis. And since, ayun, autism yung pag-uusapan natin, we're gonna look at the criteria na ginagamit ng mga developmental pediatricians, ng mga neurologists, and yung mga doctors na pwedeng mag-diagnose sa child natin with autism spectrum disorder. Now, this is the same criteria na pinapakita ko sa parents, especially kapag they're wondering how a doctor gave the diagnosis to their child. So ito yung mga tinitignan ng doctors to help them din decide na meron niyang autism yung child. Okay? So as an occupational therapist, hindi kami allowed to give a diagnosis, but of course, we're very familiar with the criteria. Ano yung ino-observe, hinahanap ng mga developmental pediatricians because yun din yung, of course, yung tina-target namin in therapy. So para maalam natin kung ano yung challenges na naging problem with our children because of the diagnosis, and dun din manggagaling yung solution na pipiliin natin, okay, in helping them out. So here, the first criteria for autism, we have persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts. So i-divide muna natin ito into two. So we have social communication and social interaction skills. So magkaiba po yung dalawa. Magkaiba si social communication kay social interaction. So when you see social communication, dito papasok yung verbal and mga non-verbal means of communicating with other people. Okay? So pag verbal, ito yung mas madalas na observe ng parents kasi pag sinabi mo na may verbal delays or speech delay, okay, yun yung madalas concern ng parents kapag papakonsult na with their kid kasi konti lang yung words na sinasabi, or for example like 3 years old na 4 years old, hindi pa sasabi ng sentences or hindi pa nagko-comment, di ba? So yun yung madalas napapansin ng parents na sign kung bakit sila lumalapit sa doctor or a DevPed for a diagnosis. Okay? And sa non-verbal part naman, pwedeng walang eye contact, hindi nakikipag-friends talaga with kids of the same age, or mas focus yung interaction, yung sinasabi nila or yung laro nila to toys, okay, kesa sa ibang bata. So when they have the option to play with other kids, if they're in the playground or if they're in like for example, family gathering, mas focus sila on objects, okay, on inanimate yung mga bagay around them rather than playing with other kids. Diba? Kasi usually in early childhood, mas focus ka on making friends kahit wala kayong laruan, diba? Pumapasok yung mga habulan or kahit yung smiling, social smiling, eye contact with other adults, with adults in the surrounding or other kids. So dito, may deficits kapag may autism, usually mas decreased siya or minsan ina-avoid talaga ng kid yung mga ganong types of situations. Okay? So yun, verbal and mga non-verbal. Okay, so non-verbal, again, yun yung mga eye contact, body posture, body positioning, also yung lack of use of gestures din. Okay? So the next part is social interaction. So kung si social communication or the verbal, non-verbal means of communicating, si social interaction is using these to interact with other people. So yung paggamit nila ng verbal and non-verbal communication skills in dealing with other people. Kaya dito rin papasok sa criteria na to yung quality of relationships that they have with other people. Okay? So you will notice na nasa elementary stage na, tapos let's say for example magsi-6 na yung kid tapos wala pang close friends in school, di ba? Usually kapag madalas mo nakikita in school, meron kang preference towards certain people. Like pag nakita nila, they get excited or they play, parang playful na mood. Pero for kids with autism, ayun, hirap sila with joining a group or having a best friend, having a close friend, starting conversations or joining a conversation. So yun yung mga difficulties nila. And yun yung itong criteria A, yung pinakamadaling makatch din ng parents. That's why they think na merong autism yung child nila. So let's go to the second criteria. Criteria B natin, we have restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities. So dito papasok yung mga types of play ng kid na For example, yung sa dating live natin na sinasabi na nagla-line up ng toys, always lang nagsispin ng wheels ng cars, palaging nagpa-flap ng hands, or nagtitipto palagi, okay? Or kapag merong toys in a room, they always go to a specific toy and paulit-ulit lang na yun lang na toy yung lalaroin nila, and the way they play with it, yun lang din paulit-ulit. Okay? So, kasama na rin dito, hindi lang with a specific toy, dito na rin papasok yung pagiging rigid nila with a specific routine. Like for example, kapag pupunta sa mall, they want to follow the specific route. Dapat dito dadaan palagi. Dapat meron silang mga rituals na rin na every time they go to this room, dapat ito yung gagawin nila. Before they start eating, dapat ito yung gagawin. When they try to dress, or when they go to sleep, or when they use the bathroom, dapat ganito yung sequence, dapat ganito palagi. Okay, and every time uh, the time when it becomes a problem is when they show very negative, excessive din na reactions kapag may changes sa routine. Like for example, you go to a mall, tapos may lilikuan lang kayo para bagong daan, or may bagong store kayo na papasukan, tapos iiyak na, or mag-meltdown na yung kid because you're doing something new out of the routine. So ito, pasok yan sa criteria B natin. Pasok din dito sa criteria B yung sensory problems, yung mga concerns with regards to problems with touch, or masyadong mahilig mag-jump, mag-spin, pwedeng, yun, pati yung flapping, or minsan very seeking. Okay, so hit ng hit, bang ng bang, throw ng things, paulit-ulit, just for them to get the sensation sa body nila, sa head nila. So, dito pasok yan sa criteria B natin. Okay? So, ito madalas, the problem here is that it's easy to observe. Okay? Pero, ang nagiging problem then is that when we look at movies and also yung media talking about autism, ito yung madalas na pinoportray. And the problem here is that children with autism, hindi sila same ng behavior na ganito sa criteria B. Okay, and also there are children with autism na mas milder version nitong criteria B yung pinapakita nila, which causes a problem dahil parang, how do you call this, hindi sila minsan nabibigyan agad nung intervention. Okay, kasi minsan sinasabi ng doctor halimbawa na in this limited amount of time na na-observe nila, wala naman masyadong behavior na lumabas. Okay, so possible na hindi siya mabigyan ng diagnosis ng autism, when in fact, pwede na in that situation na hindi lumabas, pero in other situations, mas malala, or mas compared to other kids, hindi siya ganun ko-obvious. Okay, so doon nagiging problem yun. And going back din to criteria A, yung balikan natin si criteria A, okay, hindi siya as severe as yung pinapakita sa movies or sa series. Like I know we've seen series na merong children with autism, or yung main character autistic, and then like for example the Good Doctor, or yung the Accountant ata yun, di ba? Pero if you see movies na yung character merong autism, they try to exaggerate then of course yung symptom or yung sign, because of course, it's a movie. Para easier din for the person watching to get na, uy, may autism yung character na to. Okay? But it becomes difficult if you translate it in real life, if you're dealing with a real kid na may autism, kasi hindi naman siya all the time, and also the severity din, iba-iba din siya, and the type din of behavior, nagbabago din siya for each kid. Okay? And I will also point out here sa criteria A, dito na mas mahirap din siya i-catch in children na babae, okay, in female children, because yung research for female children ngayon pa lang dumadami. Okay, ngayon pa lang dumadami, and iba yung observations din in female children with autism, dahil yung female gender mas magaling sila, yung girls daw naturally mas magaling mag-observe ng social behaviors, and mas magaling din sila mag-mirror ng behavior. So kapag ka ganun, kapag yung female child, okay, marunong siya mag-mirror ng behavior ng ibang classmates niya, ng ibang kalaro niya, ibig sabihin, hindi mo agad makakatch na, uy, may autism yung kid na to. Okay? Kasi nga, wala namang problem with the behavior, wala namang concern with with school, okay? Or pwedeng when playing with cousins kasi nga since female yung child, mas magaling mag-follow and mag-imitate ng expected behaviors, hindi nakikita as a problem, okay? So that's why we're still looking at, that's why we have to keep updating then with studies and also research about it para mas the earlier they get diagnosed, the earlier they get the intervention, mas maaga din natin matulungan yung children na merong autism. Okay? So, ayan siya. Next, let's go to criteria C. So, dito naman sa criteria C, symptoms must be present in the early developmental period. And again, dito papasok yung part na you have to be able to observe it properly lang kasi possible na hindi agad makakatch kasi hindi ganun ka-severe pero possible pa rin na merong diagnosis yung child. Lalo na rin kapag yung kid very advanced cognitive-wise. Dito papasok yung parents, halimbawa na magsasabi na very good yung kids ko with letters, with numbers, with colors and shapes. Pero pagdating sa social aspect, like the way they deal with kids and adults or social interactions, nagkaka-problem. Okay? So that's why you really need to get professional advice, to seek diagnosis kapag ka-feel nyo delayed talaga yung social aspect din. Okay? Kasi possible na makover ng cognitive aspect yung ibang challenges ng kid. Okay? Next one, and ito din yung isa sa importance, si letter D is affected na yung ibang areas of functioning ng kid. Okay? So they cause clinically significant impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of current functioning, which is why, of course, we seek the evaluation of a DevPed, of an occupational therapist, kung para ma-observe with standardized tests, ma-measure talaga kung gaano ka-delayed yung milestones ng kid in terms of different domains. Okay? So yung hindi lang sa cognitive, sa motor skills, sa sensory aspect, sa communication skills, and sa social emotional development ng kid natin. So basically lahat ng domains ng development ng kid para ma-compare din nila kung ano talaga yung diagnosis kasi si autism naman possible na pwede siyang that's why if nakapag na kayo with a DevPed, nakapag-eval na, you will see yung part na may differential diagnosis or hindi pa final yung diagnosis kasi pwedeng cause siya ng GDD, di ba yun usually kapag masyadong bata pa yung kid or hindi pa pasok dun sa criteria, yung binibigay na diagnosis, global developmental delay, pwedeng intellectual disability, pwede rin may comorbidity na ADHD. So all of that one, tinitignan to make sure if autism ba talaga yung diagnosis ng kid or possible na ibang diagnosis yung nagko-cause ng mga ganitong behaviors ng kid. Okay? So yun siya tinitignan to determine if meron talagang diagnosis. Kasi on this part naman, yung important din to notice is that yung mga sinabi natin kanina, halimbawa na nagha-hand flap yung kid or nagtitiptoe, it doesn't mean na when you observe these skills, these behaviors, or halimbawa may delays with speech development, kailangan ma-determine ng professional kung autism ba talaga kasi pwede naman na natural development pa rin. Okay? Or in a specific situation lang talaga siya lumalabas. So they have to see and check if disorder talaga siya or hindi. Okay? So we've talked about that, yung part na traits lang ba siya or disorder na level. Okay? So, kasi possible na, yun, din mo naririnig na, ay, autistic tong child ko kasi he's shy, hirap siya with making friends, mga ganyan. Possible naman na meron kid na hirap talaga makipag-friends or makipag-usap, pero dahil lang wala siyang exposure to other kids or possible na, ayun, nagde-develop pa lang siya, di ba? So, you have to see if trait lang siya ng kid or disorder na talaga. Kasi kapag disorder na level, dun mo na makikita. That's why, if you notice kanina, yung word na persist. Okay? Kasi hindi lang siya, halimbawa, like in this part lang ng development ng kid, like na grade 1 na siya, grade 2, andun pa rin yung challenges, ilang months, and also with different kids, kahit sa playground or mapa with mga pinsan man or mga kapatid or kahit yun classmates, kahit sinong kid yung ipalaro mo sa kanya, andun pa rin yung behaviors na yun. So most likely, mabibigyan na yun ng disorder na level, okay, na diagnosis yung kid natin. Ayan. Okay, so before we go back to the case, yung pinakita natin kanina, hello to Mommy Mai, hello to Mommy Sha, and hello Mommy Gantela. Good evening. And The Good Doctor, according to Sir Mike, yung movie kanina. And hello din kay Mommy Leia. Good evening sa inyong lahat. Ayan siya. Okay. And let's go back to the case. So balikan natin yung question ni Aiko kanina. Okay. So let's see ano yung naging problems niya working with a kid para yun yung pag-usapan natin today. Wait lang. Iano muna natin. Okay, so balikan natin. So ito yung sa kanya. Okay, ang sabi, we have pulling ng hair kapag nakakita ng mga bata or may nadaanan. Number 2, throwing at pushing ng mga object kapag frustrated. So this is in a situation na diagnose na yung child, and then she's asking now what to do when it comes to dealing with these specific types of behaviors. Okay, so we have pulling ng hair and then throwing at pushing. And dun sa pagbasa natin dito kanina, yung approach na ginamit na ni Aiko is that naging firm na siya kahit nasabi nung dating OT na dapat calm lang and then hindi mag-firm kasi baka mas lalong gawin ng kid. And also, what do we have here? And minsan pinapunta na niya sa room na konti lang yung stimulus para medyo calm down na siya. Okay? So what's good in this situation is that we're actually using a lot of approaches. Ay, palakihin natin yung text muna para mabasa ninyo. Ayan. So pulling ng hair and throwing at pushing yung behaviors that we're dealing with. Okay, and then yung approach na ginagamit here is being firm. Okay, that means setting boundaries dun sa kid. And also, pagpunta dun sa room na low yung stimulus. Okay? So, let's look at the good things muna that are happening in the case. Okay, so what's really good here, sa pag-describe niya pa lang ng behavior, is really clear when the behavior is happening, which makes it a lot easier for us to identify ano yung cause ng behavior. Okay, kasi pag sinabi mo lang pulling hair, kailan ba siya nangyayari? Ano ba yung possible causes for it? You have to look at the why, kasi if you know the cause, if you know the reason why it's happening, that's a lot easier for you to give a solution then, to come up with a solution. Now, dito sa first one, ang nangyayari, ang cause is kapag may bata or kapag may nadaanan. Okay? So that means the main problem here is the child still doesn't know how to interact or deal with other kids. And ang next step na titignan ko dito, if I had this kid, would be to look at saang part ng interaction niya with the kid lumalabas yung pulling ng hair. Kasi kapag lumalabas lang siya sa start ng interaction, same dun sa pagsabi niya kanina na kapag may nadaanan ng kid, automatic niya na behavior is pulling ng hair, I would observe the child muna. If pag tumagal yung interaction, nagpo-pull pa rin ng hair, ibig sabihin kahit let's say 10 minutes na sila naglalaro, 5 minutes, or kahit patapos na yung laro nila, nagpo-pull pa rin siya ng hair, it means na may problem talaga with how they deal with kids in the surroundings. So possible na pwede mong ma-observe kapag nagsalita ba yung other kid, doon siya nagpo-pull ng hair. Kapag ka kinuha yung laruan niya, doon nagpo-pull ng hair. Or kapag ka nagmo-move around yung kid, doon siya nagpo-pull ng hair. Kasi all of that one, pwedeng cause dun sa pag-pull niya ng hair. Okay, so pwede yun na, for example, kapag ka ganun, kapag nagsalita yung other kid, dun siya nagpo-pull, dun niya pinupull yung hair, pwede na sensitive siya to the sound na pinoproduce ng other kid. Okay, kapag ka dun sa part na hinihila niya yung toy or kapag nakikipaglaro sa kanya, hindi niya pa na-develop yung parallel level of play, which is the level of play kung saan na to tolerate, kaya mo nang makipagsabayan sa ibang kids, and mag-share na kayo with the same toy. Okay? So it's a developmental sequence kasi. Kasi yung first step, kailangan mo na ma-develop ng kid natin na siya lang mag-isa. That's solitary independent play. That's also a developmental stage na kaya niya maglaro ng toy na siya lang mag-isa regardless of the surrounding. Okay? So, kahit yan na stage, kapag hindi niya pa yan na-develop, for example, kapag solitary independent play, and may ibang kids in the surrounding, may gagawa lang ng sound, ayun, magpupul na ng hair, it means na that stage pa lang, hindi mo pa na-establish, hindi pa na-master ng kid. So you have to work on that one muna and then work on solitary independent. Siya lang mag-isa maglaro in different contexts like in the home, in school, in the playground, na iba-iba yung level ng sounds, iba-iba yung level ng kids na naglalaro. So i-transfer mo muna yung skill na yun to different contexts. And then after that one, you try not to introduce parallel play, yung may kalaro na siya with the same toy. So for example, you can work with toys na maraming parts, okay, na pwedeng ma-spread out in a bigger area. So kaya gustong-gusto ko yung Legos. Kasi if you imagine Legos, di ba, maraming pieces, you can spread it out in a bigger area, hindi agad makapull ng hair yung kid mo, hindi siya agad makagrab ng toy if mag-borrow yung ibang kid, and mas ma-tolerate niya na maglaro with other kids na same toy na. Okay, so yun yung gusto mo ma-establish muna na next level. Now, kapag ka ganun, ma-work on mo, titignan mo ulit kung saang parts pa siya mag-pull ng hair sa ibang bata. So kapag dito, for example, na-observe mo sa ibang parts naman ng play, hindi lumalabas yung pulling hair, dun lang talaga specific dun sa pag-interact, sa start ng interaction. Halimbawa, kapag nakita siya ng bata, diretso pull hair. Pero the rest of the time, wala na. Okay, maybe the reason here is the child doesn't know yet how to greet other kids. So ang gagawin mo, you have to teach them how to approach other kids. Kasi may ganyan na kids na yung means nila of trying to invite other kids to play ay batok or push or sampal. May mga ganyan na kapag ka nakipag-play ka lang with an adult, for example, sanay lang siya makipag-play with the parents, so nanay and tatay, tapos halimbawa, yung parents nagpo-phone or busy with work. Tapos, hahampasin niya yung parent. Tapos, doon lilingon yung parent and makipaglaro sa kanya. So, the child will think na, oh, this is the way pala to invite somebody to play with me. Okay, now, okay lang sa kanya with the parent kasi yung hampas naman ng ganun kaliit na bata with a parent, di ganun kasakit. Diba? Kasi nga, bata pa, light pa lang yung hit niya. Pero when you get that same behavior, i-transfer mo to a situation na same size na bata yung kalaro niya and then they use the same behavior of hitting or pulling hair, syempre, hindi na siya, nagiging problem na siya. Diba? Kasi of course, it doesn't let them begin yung playtime talaga. But the intent is there. The why is there. They want to play with another kid. Hindi lang siya marunong paano mag-approach and paano mag-invite to play. Right? So yun yung kailangan mo tignan. Kailan siya na part ng play lumalabas para you can practice with the kid, okay, how to greet, how to interact. Kasi part yan ng treatment na you have to teach your kid to establish pati yung body posture nila. Okay, kasi merong kids na masyadong malayo mag-greet, so hindi rinig yung voice nila. Or masyadong, yun, soft din yung voice volume. You have to work on that one. Walang eye contact. Or for example, they want to play pero they're not facing the person. They want to play pero kukunin lang nila yung laruan and then tatakbo. So you have to teach all of the parts ng interaction ng play with your kids step by step. So you have to identify saan ba lumalabas yung pulling ng hair. Ite-test mo muna lahat ng parts ng play and then that's when you come in para mas ma-target yung ano mo, yung pag-target mo ng behavior. Okay? Kasi maganda yun na you already identified. So pwedeng magandang starting point yun, yung start ng play for you to teach yung proper greeting, starting from body posture, respecting other kids' personal space, all of that one, ika-cover mo talaga yun with the kid. Okay, next one, we have throwing, wait lang, before I go to behavior number 2, sabi niya rin, they go to a room na konti yung stimulus to calm down, and then before we go to throwing and pushing kapag frustrated, i-recap muna natin to. Sabi niya na they teach the child to regulate by counting and also squeezing Play-Doh. Okay, so tama ba yung ginagawa niya? So, basically, the dilemma here is, okay ba na nag-firm siya, okay, with the kid, compared to kalma lang siya and, parang hayaan muna yung kid to relax instead of being firm. Now, ang part here na you have to think about is, kung long-term na yung behavior na to, it means na you really need to address the behavior itself. And it means din na yung approach mo of just being calm it's not working. Okay, so what's good here is that you're trying out something new, yung pagiging firm, and you're also using another approach na hindi lang behavioral. You're also using environmental approach na nilalagay niya in a room na decrease yung stimulus para kumalma yung kid. Okay, so ano yung important to remember here? You have to remember, hindi lang yung what na approach, ibig sabihin, tama yung ginagawa niya, but it's important to know when to use the approach. Okay, so yun yung isa sa important din na always ko pinapoint out sa seminar natin yung last time, na kahit alam mo yung reinforcement, alam mo yung use of naiintindihan mo yung positive, negative punishment, ganyan, mas important kung kailan mo siya gagamitin. Okay? Now, ganun din kapag yung kid mo nag-throw na or nagpo-push, and ang sabi niya, nangyayari kapag frustrated. Now, kapag frustrated yung kid mo and you know na mataas na yung level of emotions niya, tama yun na you have to mix yung feeling calm, pero kasi yung feeling calm, that's hindi siya, paano ba? Hindi siya strategy in a way na that should be your state. Parang para siya sa'yo. Hindi siya yung approach mo to the kid. Okay? Kasi you have to stay calm para makapag-isip ka about what to do. Kasi ang mangyayari here is, ang mangyayari is kailan ka papasok dun sa behavior ng kid, kailan ka magko-correct, kailan ka magiging firm, kailan ka magbibigay ng reinforcement. Okay? So, yung state na you have to be calm, it has to be all throughout. Yun yung state mo as the parent or as the therapist. Now, yung next step is kailan ka papasok with the reinforcement or pagiging firm, yung pagsabi mo ng no sa kid and pag-set ng boundary with the kid. Okay? Now, kapag yung kid mo frustrated na or kapag mataas na yung level niya of emotion, yung galit na siya, nag-throw na, nagpo-push, you have to identify kailan yung teaching period mo with the kid. Okay? Parang kailan ka pwede, this is what you call a teachable moment for your kid. Okay? So, kapag mataas yung level of emotion niya, that is not a teachable moment. Hindi siya magandang magturo ka, mag-process ka. Di ba yung approach na you have to explain to the child, isipin mo, ikaw din galit ka na. Di ba, ilagay mo yung position mo in your kid. Galit ka na, tapos frustrated ka na, napuno ka na ng galit, tapos ine-explain pa sa'yo kung bakit ka mali, bakit ka, hindi mo yan dapat ginagawa kasi galit, kasi ito yung mali mo, ito yung ginagawa. So imagine being in that position. Di ba mas lalo kang magagalit? You get more worked up. Kahit ikaw as an adult, kahit wala kang autism, ikaw mismo na kapag andun ka na sa state na frustrated, galit ka na, syempre pag may nakipag-usap pa sa'yo, minsan niya kahit magsasabi na, sige na, kalma na, di ba? Ikaw mag-isip ka pa na, wag mo nga ako pakalmahin, galit na ako, you have to listen to me, mga ganyan, di ba? Mga ganyan drama in life, yes. So you have to put yourself in that same position. Di ba? Na kapag frustrated na yung kid mo, that is not a teachable moment. You really have to wait for your kid to calm down before you do the processing. Okay? That's why dito papasok yung zones of regulation. That's entirely another topic. So, dun papasok yung mga blue zone, green zone, red zone, yellow zone, and ipapa-identify sa kid mo. And the red zone is like the pinakataas na talaga na level ng anger and frustration. Dun ka na like mad, angry, furious yung term ko with my kids. Kasi dun na lumalabas yung physical behaviors. Throwing, pushing, hitting, kicking. Pag may ganun ng behaviors, that's like red zone. And hindi na gumagana dun sa stage na yun yung pang-regulate na strategy. Okay, yung mga squeeze ball, yung deep breathing. Ang only strategy that would work at that level is really to wait for the child to calm down, lower. That's why very good yung strategy niya na i-decrease muna yung stimulus. Ipupunta to a room na decrease yung stimulus. This is not a punishment. You want your child to have to be in a room na safe lang, a lot of pillows or basta protected ng edges, wala masyadong things to throw. Imagine mo yung go to your room pero guided. Ang pangit dun sa go to your room is that you're just leaving your kid to regulate on their own. What you want to do is i-guide mo yung kid. You're still going to be there to help them relax. But again, i-wait lang talaga yung red zone. When they calm down na, pag nawala na yung physical, yung throwing or pushing, that's when you do the regulating strategies. Dito na papasok yung mga deep breathing, dito na papasok yung mga yun yung counting backwards. There's a reason why it has to be backwards, yung mga ganyan, and there's a reason why they have to be taught before your kid is already frustrated. Um, para kapag andun na siya sa stage na galit na siya, hindi mo na ituturo. Alam na niya and ma-recall na niya when he's already there. Okay? But yeah, yung zones of regulation, all the strategies, yung use of the calm down corner, all of those strategies, they have to be step by step. Dapat it's important na ma-teach mo siya before your kid goes to the frustrated part. Maganda yung strategy niya na kalma and mag-add na ng firm for the boundary. Ang i-add ko lang dito yung sa isa niya, when you say no and not nice, that is not processing. You're just saying no. Parang hindi siya processing is like i-recall niyo yung nangyari, yung situation, what happened in that situation, bakit ka nagalit, what caused your anger, what triggered you, how did you respond, tama ba yung response mo, what's a better way to respond, mga ganyan. Yun yung processing. Mahaba siya. You have to cover all of it with your kid. And then, yung pagsabi mo ng no is just setting a boundary. Short term siya. Yung long term mo is covering everything so that when your kid experiences that same situation, ma-identify na niya na, uy, ito yung na-cover namin ni teacher. And then, ito pala yung galit. Okay? And then, so galit na ako now, what should I do? So, yun i-run through nyo talaga siya. Now, what's good siguro, actually, kaya ko rin gusto yung mga kids na iyak ng iyak or madaling magalit kasi I could really see the change din during the therapy and also during our interventions. Pero what's good is that if frequent to mangyari, mas madali mo siyang ma-elicit kasi kailangan mo rin siya maturo sa kid kapag kalma. Ako personally, I have to teach it to the kid in a therapy session muna para controlled mo yung environment before mo isalang into yung real frustration niya. Kasi iba yung challenge kapag andun na talaga siya sa real situation. Like, mas marami kang factors na hindi makakontrol. So, you want your kid to role play muna, you want your kid to pretend, like story lang, okay? Or ikaw din, mag-model ka, nagalit ka, and then show the kid how you calm down din, how you use the strategies to calm down para ma-observe niya, ganito pala yung galit, ganito pala yung red zone. And then this is what I do to calm down. Parang ganyan siya. And also, din siya, hindi siya agad-agad. You have to work on it with the parent and the kid. And if you're a parent, you have to work on it with the relatives. Kasi iba-iba siya ng haba ng response ng kid. And since we're talking about strategies, yung squeeze ball, yung mga deep breathing is just a few of the strategies that you can teach. Kasi the same way that tayo as adults, iba-iba tayo ng way of relaxing, of calming down, ganun din for kids. That's why best if you teach as many strategies as you can para pag andun sa kid mo, they can choose ano yung best for them. Okay? So, ganun yung way for it. Marami siya na strategies para pagpilian siya ng kid. Kasi for one kid, it works yung deep breathing. And another kid, nag-work yung pictures na guide. So, iba-iba siya na strategies. So, what you want is your kid to get exposed to the strategies and then they could choose din ano yung best for them. So, ayan siya. Yes. And if you want the entire, actually, yung The Smart Kid natin na program, which is yung first day niya is tomorrow. I'm so excited. Yung first kid, itong regulation and itong emotional intelligence and mental health, yun actually yung coverage ng The Kind Kid na program. Pero we're not offering it yet. si The Kind Kid, kasi yung Growth Child series natin is the Smart Kid, the Kind Kid, and the Strong Kid. So, yung emotional regulation, the way they manage their emotions, identify it, yun yung coverage ng The Kind Kid. So, if you want to learn more about this, wala pang dates for The Kind Kid. We're still finishing. We're gonna start pa with the Smart Kid. Pero we're gonna announce naman the Kind Kid program later on. But yun yung content, yung pagkalma, mga ganyan na strategies. Yes. Okay. I'm very excited na rin for the Kind Kid actually kasi it's very useful for a lot of my kids. Lalo na kapag ito na yung dinideal with. Kasi yung behavior management by a black sheep natin, it just deals with reinforcement, tama, and punishment. Kailan mo gagamitin? Si The Kind Kid, it deals with processing, yung mga ganyan na, yung turo ng emotions. We're gonna deal with anger, gonna deal with sadness, gonna deal with anxiety in kids. So it really helps your kids then have this emotional strength na at a young age. Yun yung goal ko rin actually na ma-develop kasi I think we've seen during the pandemic how mental health is important, and even adults, di ba, they're having a hard time dealing with anxiety, and parang tayo lahat, we imagine na, I'm anxious, it's a problem. Hindi naman siya ganun, di ba? Emotions are a normal, natural, important part of life. Okay, yung anxiety, it serves a purpose. Anger mo, it serves a purpose. Si sadness, it serves a purpose. So what we want to deal with is ma-identify kailan siya naging problem, yung emotions na to, and also paano natin ma-manage. Okay, it's not about not feeling sad or not feeling scared. Kasi kailangan mo talaga maturo sa kid mo na hindi siya yung, wag ka na ma-sad, wag ka na ma-angry, wag ka na mag-ganyan. Okay, kasi dadating at dadating yung point na yun. So what we want to teach is how they identify na, uy, galit na ako, uy, anxious na ako. What do I do when I get to these stages? Okay, para they can deal with the emotion, they can deal better din with relationships. Okay, so paano kapag wait lang. Paano kapag nagwawala maghapon, nagtatampo ba sila kasi hindi ako nakauwi ng saktong oras palagi? Niya ako inaantay, kagabi di na niya ako naantay, kaya mula umaga nagwawala. If this po is an isolated event, ibig sabihin kagabi lang nangyari at kagabi lang siya ng ganitong response, then that's actually okay. I mean, you can imagine somebody being disappointed that you set an appointment with them and then hindi ka nag-show up. Like, imagine it being your friend. Nakipag-usap siya with you, you said na you're gonna promise, you promised na you're gonna show up tapos hindi ka nagpakita. Of course, they're gonna have that same reaction. Although, of course, hindi magwawala yung friend mo, but you're gonna imagine that they feel bad. But of course, yung friend mo, adult na, so they can manage that emotion better compared to your kid na ngayon dito, the way they manage it is nagwawala sila. So, if this is an isolated event, you can process after, so pwedeng tomorrow, and then you can find a way to make up for it. So, pwede kayong bumawi. You can set a time na because I did this one, I'm sorry, I apologize, and then would it make you feel better if we set a date ng ganito, tayo lang, lalabas tayo, or we're gonna set a date na kayo lang talaga. Now, kapag if yung trabaho niyo po talaga is mataas yung chance na inconsistent yung uwi ninyo, it's better to have your child process different situations. So you can let them understand saan kayo nanggagaling, bakit late kayo nakauwi. So you can tell them, these are the possible reasons. Of course, kapag kalma na yung kid, these are the possible reasons why I go home late. So number one, possible na sa commute, sa pag-drive. So ito yung mangyayari. Sometimes pwedeng may sira yung sasakyan or may delay sa traffic. So ayun si Daddy Mark Glenn, I want to go home early. I left home early. I left work early. I wanted to be home early, pero ito yung mga nangyari. It's out of your control, mga ganyan. And then ilista mo rin to your kid, pwedeng weather din. So you list down all the possible reasons. And also the next time when you set time with them, better if you give a leeway na, especially kapag hindi nag-work agad yung processing, para lang your kid will also understand na, for example, if hindi kayo makauwi talaga ng 9, you can give 10 p.m. Para mas ano sa kanya na if you go home at an earlier time, okay, let's say for example 9:30 or 9:20 ganyan, at least hindi siya ganun ka ano for your kid. Na keep mo pa rin yung promise mo but you're giving yourself a leeway lang to be late. Parang ganun siya. But ang factors lang here is that same pa rin na when you deal with your kid, whatever you say, kung ano yung words na binitawan mo, you have to keep it kasi they really remember details. I think may ganun tayo with our parents din na meron silang sinabi tas hindi nila tinupad. You remember that specific detail and regardless if your kid has autism or not, ADHD, Down syndrome, whatever, or if walang this diagnosis, if you say something, you have to remember it talaga. So that's why you have to be careful with giving a specific time. Kasi if you give a specific time, especially if your kid knows how to read the clock already or tell time, or ganyan, they really keep watching for it and remember yung specific date, specific reward. If you say, I'm gonna buy you this, you have to remember it kasi they're really gonna remember that one. Okay. So, pero pag isolated event naman, you can make up for it. Okay. And Sir Mike, he's showing the traffic light. Yes, yun yung for emotions. And of course, better din yan na may traffic light, may visual kayo to help your kids point din. Yun, related to Ma'am Lian's comment na zones of regulation. Good PM, Mommy Adessa. Good PM, Lorenzo, Alfonso. Ayan. And hello, Zane, here to grow with Otis Cesar. Thank you for tonight's wonderful discussion. I hope you guys are learning. And hello, Mommy Regina. Hello, Red. Hello, Luis. Dian. And Mommy Marivic. Mommy Michelle. Mommy Joe. And Mommy Sharon. Ayan. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And I'm so happy kasi meron tayong names na every week we see them. Like si Mommy, like last week din, nandito si Mommy Michelle Gavino, andito si Mommy Regina last week. Ayan. Okay. We have follow-up questions. Madalas po manakit yung 5-year-old son ko lalo na kung hindi masunod yung gusto. Same thing pa rin po, it's an entire process. Same thing that we covered with behavior management by a black sheep. It's an entire process. Identify yung situations, yung context, kung saan siya nangyayari. It's best when you consult with your OT already. Better if you journal kung kailan nyo na-observe yung behavior kasi it's really a lot. May nahulog lang. Kinabahan ako. It's really a lot easier to identify the cause. Kasi for example, with this one, madalas manakit kapag hindi agad nakuha yung gusto. You want to list down kailan siya lumalabas. Is it all the time? Is it for a specific toy? I-measure nyo rin yung severity. Like, diretso ba siya sa hit? Diretso ba sa throw? Or nagtatampo muna? Yung face muna? Or mag-spit? Yung mga ganun. Yung mild or mas severe na behaviors. Yung severe na behaviors, yun na yung may damage na on property, like magtatapon na, makadamage na ng gamit sa bahay, or manghit na ng ibang tao, or yun, yung pulling hair, versus yung, yung facial expression lang, or yung iiyak, or yung mag-spit, yung limited lang sa self nila, before you can determine kung ano yung best approach for this one. But ultimately, there's a lot of reasons why the kid would be doing this. Yung pagpanakit kung hindi niya makuha. It depends. Ayun din. Pwede, you have to list down kanino siya lumalabas. Kasi possible sa inyo lang, or does it come out with the teacher, with the other parent, with the relatives, with siblings, para alam ninyo kung paano siya i-deal with palalo. Okay. I think may na-skip tayo na question with sensory kanina. Hello, Mommy Tina from Davao City. Ayan. Oh, ang dami na natin tonight. Hi po, with regards po sa sensory seeking problem, like my son kept on pressing his chin on all of us that most of the time is getting harmful. He thinks it is still play pa rin. How can we regulate this? How can we address this? Okay, um, for this one, well, kasi yun actually po yung topic tomorrow sa The Smart Kid, yung sensory problem. Same thing din po with the, may nag-ask kanina about rigidity. Hanapin ko lang muna. So this, about sensory seeking is from Mommy Louise. And then, oh no, nawala na yung comment about rigidity kanina, how to deal with rigidity. Ay, here, Mommy Dayan. Okay, so si rigidity and si sensory seeking, they both fall under criteria B kanina of autism, yung restrictive restricted repetitive behaviors. Okay, so si rigidity, the way it appears is that they want to control lang din all the all the aspects in their environment. Ibig sabihin, the reason why they want to stick with routines is because they're predictable. It's the same thing then, isang reason din with yung picky eaters, and also very selective with saan sila dadaan, sino yung mga kalaro nila, ano yung games, the same movies, watching them again and again, listening to the same songs again and again, because they're predictable, they're familiar, they don't have a lot of changes sa sensation na kailangan nilang i-process. So imagine yung food, let's say for example, yung cracker na skyflakes. Yung skyflakes, kahit anong skyflakes na package yung kainin mo, it's the same. Diba? The same yung lasa, the same yung size, the same crunch, the same flavor, the same everything. Diba? That's true for kids na Oreo, yung favorite, or fries ng McDo. Diba? Yung fries ng McDo, minsan lang may branch na hindi crispy yung fries nila. Kaya siguro sa lahat din ng fries, McDo yung pinaka inaano ng maraming kids kasi mas consistent sila with how crispy, how salty it is, yung luto niya, di ba? It's very predictable. It's the same thing, mas specific lang yan na aspect when it comes to rigidity compared to an entire routine, di ba? Pero that's the same concept. Like with the fries, the same lang yung sensation, so they don't have to deal with so many things, so many new sensations. So the way you deal with that is you want to desensitize, you want to expose your kid to new sensations in a way na controlled, close to the familiar na sensations, while teaching them the strategies to calm down and to deal with the new sensations. Okay? So yun siya yung dalawa mo na gustong maturo sa kid. Okay, so exposure plus relaxation strategies to deal with the sensations, bagong sensations. Because if you want to deal with rigidity, tignan mo muna saan ba yung controlled na parts, saan ka pwedeng pumasok ng new sensation. Okay? Kasi you want to stick, kasi yung rigidity, madali siya isipin na rigid yung kid ko, pero iba-iba siya ng presentation for each kid. Iba-iba sila ng gusto na food, iba-iba sila ng, siyempre, iba-iba yung bahay ninyo, iba-iba yung mall na pinupuntahan ninyo. So all of that one, you want to put it into context and you want to apply strategies that match with that kid. Okay, so it's an entire process. Pero yun po, yung tips niya is you mix dalawa. Exposure plus relaxation strategies. Ayun siya. And yung long version for that is what we'll cover tomorrow. Topic number 1 for the Smart Kid course is sensory integration. We're gonna cover how to deal. Same thing din po with Mommy Louise. Sensory seeking, you're gonna learn how to deal with, how to identify if proprioception ba siya, vestibular ba, tactile, para you can give the same sensation in a different manner. Pero same pa rin sensation na need niya. So let's say for example, ito mas specific, pressing his chin on all of us that most of the time it's getting harmful. So this means na masyadong mataas yung need niya for a specific sensation. And tuturo namin bukas, okay, sa sensory integration topic sa Smart Kid, na yung pressing on his chin, okay, yung pag-press niya sa chin, what he wants is yung pressure on the chin, and that falls under proprioception, okay? Si proprioception, the sensation there, nakukuha niya from the muscles, from the joints, okay, from the inside part ng body niya. So dito papasok yung ibang kid na palo-palo, yung mga ganyan, yung uh, ganun ang ganun sa chin. Okay, so you can see muna if very specific lang kasi if you have proprioception problem, hawak ko ng hawak sa chin ko rin. If meron possible problem siya with proprioception, it could also present with other behaviors. Okay? Kung generalize yung need niya for proprioception or pressure dun sa body niya. So you want to catch everything na hindi lang dun sa chin. Okay? Pero kapag specific lang sa chin, possible na pwede may toothache yan, may lumalabas yung bagong ngipin, or may tooth decay. You want to check that first before you go with the sensory. And then if walang problem naman with the teeth, and ganun pa rin siya ng ganun, possible na mataas yung need niya. So you could provide other ways na ma-meet yung sensation na yun. So if you want to go with proprioception, you go with activities na mataas yung level ng pressure. So before they go with the pag-push ng chin to other people, you can already provide it to your kids. So you can have facial massages, oro facial massages kasama yung inside ng mouth. So your OT will teach you how to do the massage inside the mouth. So may sequence yan, may pattern yan. And we're gonna cover that din tomorrow sa Smart Kid. And also pwede din in other parts, in other body parts. And then you also have to know kapag coming or alerting yung stimulus na ibibigay mo for your kid. Kasi si vestibular, you have to know when to give something na pampakalma sa kid mo kapag masyadong mataas, or gusto mo magbigay naman ng alerting if your kid has a low response. And also you have to watch out for precautions din kung kailan na siya kailangan mo i-watch out. Kasi meron naman mga syempre yung UTs niyo, you have to be very careful kasi halimbawa si vestibular, yung effects niya hindi lang lumalas during the therapy session, it's prolonged. So you have to be careful with your kid kapag for example, nahihilo na or ganyan. So all those precautions you have to observe with your kid kasi they really, paano ba? Kasi medyo, since we're dealing with, yun ang sabi natin sa ads natin for the Smart Kid, they're really foundations for learning. So if you're dealing with sensory na very foundation na talaga, part yun, if you notice, yung muscles na, yung vestibulars, like sa head na yung yung nag-receive ng sensation niya is sa inner ear, it affects then the auditory processing, it affects yung attention, yung focus ng kid mo. So meron din effects kapag sumobra, meron effects kapag kulang, how do you determine if kulang or sobra? So all of that one, it has to be a careful balance, which leads us to question, wala pa pala tayo na present na question, pero it leads us to question number 2 ata for tonight. Wait, I'll show muna our slides. Wait lang. Kasi may nag-ask dyan about a diet, sensory diet. This is what you want to get from your OT, the sensory diet for your child. Kasi your OT, mas automatic na for them to catch kung ano yung sensation that they need. Di ba? During feedback time, your OT can tell, mommy, ito yung vestibular, ito yung proprioception, kaya kami nag-swing, kaya kami nag-massage, kaya kami nag-milking, yung mga ganyan. Kaya nila mas madaling makatch. What you want is throughout the sessions ninyo with your therapist, yung journey ninyo with the therapist, you form this sort of diet na kaya mong ibigay sa child mo before they're expected to focus and do the tabletop activities. Okay? Kaya yun yung topic, kaya siya topic number 1 sa the Smart Kid program tomorrow. Day 1 pa lang yun yung coverage because the sensory diet, what your goal is that itong problems kasi na to, especially when your kids are older na, like 7, 8, 9, kung saan medyo mas mature na yung brain and mas hindi na agad mabilis yung changes sa brain structure nila when it comes to yung tolerance nila to sensations, to sensitivity. O hindi naman yan, di ba, syempre yung mga nag-uti na hindi siya yung parang papasok ka sa therapy session, paglabas ng anak mo like, woo, parang okay ka na, you're so desensitized, yeah, so parang okay ka na. Hindi siya ganyan, di ba? You're dealing with underlying neurologic levels, like brain level, nerve level yung dinideal with natin. So the effects and the changes, they don't happen that quickly. Okay? So mas prolong siya. it works a lot faster and more effective with younger kids. That's why very important si early intervention. Pero with older kids, what you want to develop is yung kid mo na yung mag-ask for a movement break. Sila na yung hihingi na I'm not focused, I can't finish this, or they get distracted and hihingi sila ng sensory break. And also, even before they get distracted, I have kids na before they begin therapy or before we have our online therapy now, since teletherapy lang kami now, meron ng guidelines on what they should do. So meron ng kid na pagkagising, dapat lalabas na siya sa balcony, dapat mag-walk na siya, and then pwede din if possible, like they go down sa playground kasi if they go down sa playground, they play with the swing, with this ganitong type, mas focus yung kid and we can work with the handwriting, with the worksheets type of activities. So ganyan yung gusto nyong ma-develop with your kid. Na alam nyo na yung kid ko nag-work best with these activities and makaka-focus na siya. That's why when I work with kids, ang first few sessions namin puro yan, movement, puro mga obstacle course, and then later on, yung ginagawa na lang namin, dance, or pwedeng yung dance na lang and imitate, or pwedeng ano na lang yung mga jumping jacks and toe touches kasi nagawa na nila beforehand yung sensory diet nila or na parang na-manage na namin somehow. Okay, parang mas alam na namin kailan i-expect yung mataas na level and lower na level ng kid. And we can work on the worksheets, tabletop activities, yung mga handwriting, cutting activities with less time. So, ayun siya. So, mas kukonti yung sensory namin and then more on the academic skills, play skills, ganyan siya. Ayan. So, match siya with this question. Sabi ni Bla, 0987, I'm not sure if she's an OT or a parent, but what to do if super sensory seeking a kid and how to perform a sensory diet. So, you have to deal with, first you have to observe the kid muna, break down if ano yung type of sensation. So, vestibular, proprio, tactile, is it smell, taste, touch, may na-miss ba ako? Visual, di ba? Saan sila na-distract, kailan sila nawawala ng focus, yung mga ganun na type of questions. And then, you try to do as many strategies as you can. Okay? So, for example, si proprioception, hindi lang naman milking tsaka massage yung strategies for it. Marami pa naman. So, what works for your kid? And then, ano yung bagay din sa time ninyo? Kasi, for example, yung walking outside sa balcony, sometimes may days na kaya nilang gawin. May days din na hindi nila kayang gawin. So, the mom will tell me, teacher, kaka-breakfast niya lang, hindi kami nakababa. So, syempre, i-adjust mo yung session. I-adjust, like, you can add another movement activity para ma-deal with mo yung sensory need ng kid before you expect them to focus. So, parang ganyan. So, sometimes ma-observe ko na rin na, yung kid ko nang hindi focus. So, may kulang dun sa nangyari. So, maybe we can stop muna. Let's do this exercise. Let's do this dance. Let's do this obstacle course. Or let's add this sa activity natin para ma-meet yung need na yun. And then, mas ma-focus yung kid. So, parang ganun siya. Kasi hindi siya all the time. For example, alam ng kid mo how to do this activity and then gagawin mo ulit for mastery. And then, ma-observe mo, hindi ganito yung performance niya last time. So, of course, hindi siya behavior lang ng kid. Kasi yun yung madalas mo may isip agad, di ba? That's what we dealt with sa behavior management by a black sheep. Hindi lang siya behavior agad. Merong sensory aspect na possible na yung criteria being for autism na sensory pala yung problem, hindi siya behavior. Okay, kahit gusto ng kid mo na magsulat, kahit gusto niya patapusin yung cutting activity mo, pero hindi siya makafocus kasi seeking, kasi gusto niyang gumalaw, yung body na niya, yung brain na niya yung may need for it, you really can't expect them to do it. Okay, so that's why you want to give the sensation, identify mo muna ano yung need, and then preventive approach ka, bigay mo before the session starts para mas ready na siya to focus when you do the tabletop worksheet types of activities. Ayan. Okay. Hello, Mommy Lovelyn. Ayan. Lovelyn. Hello, Mommy Evelyn. Hey. Cutie kid. Sa profile picture. Yes. Thank you, Mommy Louise. Ayan. Sensory integration is 100. Yes. Ayan. yung anak ko po, di siya marunong mag-jump. Pero nung natuto na mag-jump, panay jump na siya. 2.5 year old na po, ano po ba dapat gawin para ma-less yung pag-jump niya? Actually, ako if ganito yung kid, hindi ko siya i-goal na ma-decrease. What you want to do is to context, parent teach your kid kailan magja-jump, saan pwede mag-jump. Kasi ako personally, I wouldn't want my 2-year-old magti-3 pa lang na mag-stop mag-jump kasi ang dami niyang makukuha from jumping. Jumping is like a whole body exercise, vestibular, proprioception. Pwede ka mag-add ng tactile nga, yung jumping on different surfaces. Yung vestibular, pwedeng tumaas pa if mas mataas na height. So pwede mong i-take advantage actually instead of stopping it kasi maganda siya na starting activity for your kid to help them focus. So kapag panay yung jump niya kasi kakatuto pa lang mag-jump. Also, jumping is a very important gross motor milestone. So gusto mong ma-master niya to na level. So what you want to do is actually expand kung saan niya pa pwedeng magamit yung jumping para pampalakas pa ng legs niya, yung muscles niya. And you can even introduce other, parang mas challenging pa. So you can have jumping over a chair, jumping yung mas mataas na surfaces, jumping over an obstacle, jumping forward, jumping backward. Pero if ang worry ninyo is more on hindi siya tumitigil talaga, it's best if you have one time sa morning, like ipa-jump nyo ng ipa-jump in a specific place. Actually, meron parents na concerned na pinapa-jump ko on the bed or on the couch kasi syempre you don't want your bed to parang yung spring yung spring ng mga furniture ninyo. Pero if you can have a trampoline po, you can have that one. There are smaller trampolines kung pwede ninyo smaller space lang. Also, there yung trampoline naman madali siyang i-store. So, you can have that one po na type. And then, i-guide nyo lang yung pag-go up and also yung safety aspect kasi may metal parts yung trampoline. But you would want to keep them jumping para ma-take advantage niyo, marami pa kayong benefits makuha out of the jumping. And then, ituro nyo lang yung no jumping on the bed, no jumping during school time, no jumping during mga ganyan. And then, schedule ninyo yung jumping kung kailan pwede. So, in the morning, before class, and pwedeng before sleep para mas ma-meet pa yung need niya. Ask me po, si loved one ko po, since po nang matigil kami sa therapy, naging palasigaw po siya. Effect po ba ng paghinto niya sa therapy? Yes, kasi possible po yan na si shouting. You can observe po kailan din siya mangyayari. If lumalabas siya kapag may hindi nakukuha or kapag all the time. Kapag all the time, throughout the day po yung lumalabas, you can see possible na naghanap talaga siya ng sensation na nakukuha niya dun sa therapy niya. So, you can expect in therapy, dagdag yung teacher or maingay yung ibang kids or they get music, you know. So, you can have that same, you can check your child's notes and then, or you can recall ano yung mga activities ng OT niya and then try to do it at home. Transfer ninyo para yung need niya na, yung sensory need niya na nakukuha niya from the shouting kasi possible na auditory, possible din na oral, verbal kasi mouth niya yung involved. So, you can have those activities na nag-involve nun. So, you can have songs, you can have stories, you can have pointing, you can also teach na rin yung volumes, inside voice, shouting voice, may levels yan for voice volumes. You can teach that one kung kailan appropriate. Pero if it's really sensory muna, you can deal with cognitive stimulation. Kasi kapag, and also sensory, stimulation for your kid. Kasi pag hinahanap nila yung sounds, you can provide that muna. So you can do the songs and the music and dance. Kasi kung yun yung hinahanap niya, pwede mag-decrease yung yung pagsigaw niya. First time manood sa inyo. Welcome, Mommy Odessa. And hi to your kid na nasa profile picture. Hello. Ganda ng smile. Ask ko lang po sana anak ko po ay mag 8 years old. Di pa siya nagsasalita. When po kaya siya possible magsalita? 3 years na po siya sa OT. Thank you so much. You can ask your OT po. And also, I would recommend if you don't have a speech therapist yet, it's best that you also have an evaluation na. Kasi when you go with speech, um, they also have more strategies that you could have when it comes to verbal production, yung paglabas na ng sounds. So, if your OT is not that familiar, kasi mas sa speech na rin yung mga oral placement therapy, your speech has strategies where they use their hands to, for handling your kid, pag-produce mismo ng sound. They could also use AAC na, yun yung augmentative, ano ba yun? Di session, di mo, tinandaan, augmentative, uh, uh, yeah, I need help. OTs and speech dyan. Ano yung isang A sa AAC? Augmentative uh, communication. Ayan. So, that's what they use to facilitate and also to possible na augmentative alternative. Tama ba? An alternative means, ano yung isang A? Augmentative communication, alternative augmentative communication. Kasi they have a lot of options on how your kid can communicate. Kasi it's speech and language. Tama? Ayun, tama. And thank you, Mami Crystal. Alternative nga yung other word. And so, alternative augmentative communication. Kasi if you say speech and language, ano siya, if your kid doesn't have speech, they still have language part. Iba yung dalawa. So, ang mangyayari, for example, kung walang verbal, your kid can still communicate with pointing or pictures or yung iPad na when they press it, it produces sounds or picture exchange, cards, or yung mga ganyan. So, if delayed yung speech ng kid, they could use the AAC or look for other means, or handwriting is a means of communication. So you can teach your kid another means of communicating with you. So magsa-start them with communicating their needs. So you can work with a speech therapist so they can provide. Mag-start mo na with meditation. Also yung providing alternatives na with your kid on how they can communicate yung mga needs nila. Magsa-start yan with I want to go to the bathroom, yung mga ganyan, I want blank. And especially na 8 years old na yung kid ninyo, you want to explore din other options on how they could interact with you and their friends na parang mas marami silang options rather than just verbal. Kung hindi pa nagsasalita yung kid ninyo. Kasi your speech therapist could determine best kung kailan siya magsasalita. And also, since we're dealing with your child na 8 years old, yung brain niya rin, the way it develops, yung pag-learn niya ng language, it could be affected na rin somehow yung rate, or iba na yung bilis niya rin of learning the words and also yung verbal na skills kasi 8 years old na siya. So what you want to explore with your speech therapist and possible din with your OT is ano muna kayo, pwede, ako, if wala pang speech yung kid ko, I start with the cards. Kasi for example, with needs muna, we have a list of like food, rooms in the house, location. You also have yung toys nila or people that they want to interact with. So yun yung start muna namin na i-target. So for example, if they want to eat, they can select the food na card, okay, kahit hindi pa nagsalita, and then they'll give it to you, and then kayo yung magsasalita for them to facilitate yung pagsalita nila, pag-produce ng sound. Pero kapag hindi, na-meet pa rin yung target na they were able to express a need, okay, they were able to make a request, and then may back and forth kayong dalawa. So, alam niya kung kailan gagamitin, kailan ma-identify yung situation, kung kailan gagamitin yung card, or the iPad, or another alternative means of communication para makipag-usap sa inyo. So, ayan siya. Paano mag-increase ang attention ng kid? Hello, Mommy, Rose, Tony, and also with, I'll answer this together with the sensory diet. Do all kids need a sensory diet? Kasi it goes with with the focus and attention. Kasi a lot of my kids, kahit medyo okay na kami with the focus attention goal, I still do the dance and yung mga movement obstacle course. Do they need a sensory diet? dadating sa point na yung kid mas manageable na, and also parang alam mo na kailan ika-catch yung need niya for the sensory, yung parang alam mo na, na hindi siya focused now, I have to do this activity. Mag-gets mo yun with your kid. So, if true siya for all kids, even if yung kid ko medyo functional na, na-reach na namin yung goal, kaya niyang matapos ng worksheet or kanyan, I still do it just to enhance, have lang this parang enhance effect for your kid. Kahit hindi na siya ganun ka-concern, pero you alam mong pwede ma-optimize pa yung performance ng kid mo with the movement. Parang ganyan siya. Okay? So, I work with the premise na hindi siya necessarily nawawala agad just because your kid can already like focus for a longer time, or alam na niya paano matapos, or like ayun siya, functional na yung attention niya and they can focus, finish worksheets na. I still want to give it to my kids kasi I can see pa rin na better ako with the kids I work with, better pa rin yung performance nila, better yung mood, better yung participation nila with me if I give the sensory diet or yung movement that they need. The same thing with us, the same thing with adults na, for example, before you go to work, um, you take a 10-minute walk, you take, alam mo yun, yung parang break muna from work and then you go outside, parang pahangin ka muna before you go back to work. Parang ganun yung ginagawa ko with the kids. Na even if I don't see the need, na parang hindi siya problem na level na tumatayo or hindi makaupo, I still give it, number one, to optimize, and number two, para pang prevent na rin. Para before pa siya ma-distract, nabigay ko na yung sensory need niya, bale. Ayan. Mommy Mato, kailan po masasabi na hindi na nila kailangan ang mag-therapy? Thanks. So, Mommy Mato, for this one, it really depends on the age of your kid. Okay? For this question, a lot of people think talaga na bakit ang haba ng therapy, like it takes years, and why is it like long term? Now, it depends on when your kid starts. Kasi, for example, if your kid enters therapy at 3 or 4, ang daming hahabulin na milestones na dapat at 2 or yun, minsan niya yung parang younger than 2 na milestones pag may mga na-skip or hindi mo na-observe, especially yung mga joint attention, mga eye contact, kailangan mo habulin yung milestones kasi, for example, like magte-therapy tayo now, 2 years old yung kid, and then we work for 6 months. Now, there's a new set of milestones na papasok at 2.5 years old. Like, ang daming milestones at this age, 2.5 years old. So, while we're trying to catch up on milestones nung 2 years old pa lang siya, may bagong madadagdag. And so that's why it looks like, hindi pa tayo tapos. Pero if you review the notes and if you review the progress of your kid, ang dami niya na actually natapos. So you're essentially done already with the 2-year-old milestones, and then we're moving up now to 3 years old. So it would look like ang haba na ng therapy niya. But what's happening is that you're dealing with a new set of milestones na gusto niya lang mas mabilis na since you're catching up, or pwedeng may bagong milestones na parating na gusto nyo mapabilis yung pag-achieve, and also preparing them for another set of milestones. Okay, kasi yung age na yan, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, ang dami niyang ang dami talaga. Like I can enumerate right now lahat ng milestones for feeding. I can list them down for you tonight talaga. Like for example, spoon is 1.5, fork 2.5, knife 6, yun yung feeding pa lang. Buttoning is 3 years old. Pagtanggal, 2.5. May mga ganyan yan. Memorize yan ng OT ninyo. We cover that sa review center. I teach that one. Lahat ng milestones. Pagtanggal ng coat, pagsuot ng sapatos, pagtanggal ng belt, pagsuot ng belt. We cover all that one. So, magkasunod-sunod yan lahat. So, to answer kung hindi na niya kailangan ng therapy, for most kids, kapag masyadong marami yung hahabulin, we get to a point na, for example, kapag nag-enter na ng grade school, and then we could see that the child can already manage their yung sensory needs nila, hindi na ganun ka nag-get in the way of focusing. Yung ano nila, we can already work with handwriting, yung mga academic skills nila, so you can already do din at home. So we're gonna I look at 2 things, the child and also the parent. So sa inyo din, if you can already manage your child. Kasi when I work with a parent naman, when I work with you, I want you then to problem solve and also learn how to come up with solutions na kayo lang, which is why we're having the Smart Kid program tomorrow in Start and also yung ibang program para ang goal natin here is that you won't depend on the therapy. Like you won't come to me and teacher, ito yung situation. Like what do we do best, ganyan. So I have parents who are working with me for years na. And the difference is that kahit na nagka-continue pa rin kami with therapy, they already have this skill na, teacher, this is what I did. Or teacher, when they report to me a behavior, alam na nila na I have to hear kailan nangyayari, bakit nangyayari, where does it happen, with whom does it happen, kailan nag-start, all of that one. Because you have to learn how to uh, break down a behavior and also target it. So parang ganyan. So you have to make sure na ma-develop nyo rin tong skill na to. Okay? So hindi lang yung kid nyo coming out, kayo din kasi just because your kid could also reach these milestones, may bago kayong milestones din during adolescence and also yung late adolescence na and moving towards mga employment goals yun na. Now these foundations na binibuild natin during childhood, yung mga yung emotional intelligence, yung emotional regulation, ito ngayon yung sensory, yung cognitive skills nila, you want to learn these strategies, develop these strategies, learn to identify kailan nyo kailangan para pagtapos nyo sa therapy, you can already come out, get discharged na gets nyo na how to apply them and also use them on your own. Ayan. So that's why din, kasi ang difficult din here in the Philippines is that very limited yung OTs and because long-term din talaga siya, that's why, ayun, medyo madali siya isipin na parang ang tagal if you look at it na parang in the years. Pero if you zoom in a little bit dun sa year by year ninyo or month by month ninyo na aspect, you can appreciate how your child, mas maano mo siya na, na-achieve na ng child ko yung 2-year-old milestones. Na-achieve na ng child ko yung 3-year-old milestones. And then you see na parang, oh, that's why we're continuing therapy because we're done with these milestones, we're working with this new set, and parang mas ganun siya. Yes, but I understand, it's really parang siya, overwhelming to think about, especially I have parents now who are really worrying with their children going into adolescence. Kasi, admittedly naman, di ba, we can see na yung programs talaga in the Philippines aren't with the adolescent. Ngayon pa lang dumadami yung program for vocation, yung work, yung employment part na papasok sila into work. And right now, yung programs pa, more on sheltered pa lang, yung hindi pa open talaga na employment na sila yung sasali na sa general workforce. So it's more of like controlled environments, usually in therapy centers or in partnership with the therapy center. Kasi hindi pa ganun ka na yung infrastructure natin here. But of course, that's where we want to go long term. That's why we want to work with the government, work with schools, to set up these parang mga infrastructure and also centers na matulungan yung kids natin that when they go to that's the vision naman natin, di ba? Hindi lang with when we deal with kids kasi in reality they grow up. So we want to make sure na when they go to adolescence, we already have these structures put up. But swerte yung bigger cities because they have somehow, even yung bigger cities, the programs very limited pa yung nag-work doon ng mga OTs, so we want to improve pa on the programs and actually yun nga, on the manpower talaga kasi very konti. Yung goal actually ng Philippine Academy of OT is to have 1 out of 10,000 at 1 OT for every 10,000 people by 2025, if I'm not mistaken. If merong from KOT watching now, you can type down sa comments ano yung specific goal because ganun ka konti yung OTs natin in the Philippines. And also, of course, we're dealing with because better yung conditions abroad, we can blame then some of our healthcare professionals flying out and also moving abroad. Pero hopefully, of course, we have tayo lahat we have the same vision of setting up these centers kung saan makapasok yung kids natin in their adolescence, in their late adolescence, moving into young adulthood na where they can explore then their vocational interest, yung mga training nila for vocational readiness, So, ibang milestones na naman yan. So, all of that one might still fall under therapy, but of course, it comes in a different form. So, ayan siya. Yes. My child, 8-year-old, studying online in regular school, but during class can focus, tayo ng tayo, but playing roadblocks, tumatagal kasi focus siya. Advice, please, thank you. This one naman is for the strong kid. This is for executive function level na po yung 8 years old. Same thing din po with the 8-year-old kanina. This falls under executive functions kasi instead of just focus and attention na kayo yung magdi-deal with the movement breaks, ganyan, it's a lot difficult with older kids kasi their schedules are jam-packed, their activities are a lot more attention, attention demanding. So what you want is they would learn on their own, lalo na of course mas mahal na yung school nila, so expect parents na ganito na yung age to have both parents working talaga. That's what I usually encounter. So so you want your kid to develop na since 8 na rin papunta na to preteen, you want your kid to catch themselves na ganito, na distracted sila. But ang mangyayari is that si roadblocks is an essential part sa age nila. May ibang ano ako dyan. May ibang we're gonna talk about screen time some other time kasi ang haba I think explanation ko for it. But when si roadblocks, it means kasi for them to socialize din, especially at this age. If you look at it, if kaya niyang tumagal yung focus sa roadblocks, that means kaya niya. By kaya niya, it means may capability siya of having prolonged attention. But you have to imagine, again, roadblocks is entertaining, visuals, sounds. So we want to transfer that towards yung structure, yung mas parang worksheet, hindi ganun ka bright lights, entertaining sounds na situation, di ba? So for this one, you want to target two. Number one is yung you want to control muna, environmental modification. There are apps, wait lang. Ang app ay, what's the name of the app? Ito. Self-control app. It's called self-control and meron din rescue time app. I'm gonna give it to you na now. But actually, this part naman is the strong kid. The strong kid program natin is resilience. It's more of executive functions, planning for the long term for themselves, prioritization, decision making, ganyan. But I'll give it to you now, this tip, as early as now, kasi hindi pa, matagal pa yung i-offering ng the strong kid program natin. But the strong kid program is setting your kid na to success talaga. You can search this up po. I'm gonna type it down sa comment. Ayan, self-control app. The logo for the app is, oh wait lang, I'll check again. Kasi I have it in my laptop. The logo for the app is a skull na merong spade. Spade siya with the skull. Okay, that's the name of the app. I-ano ko muna. I-dagdag ko as a banner. Ayan, that's the name of the app. The self-control app, you can set a timer dun sa computer ng kid ninyo. You can have pang-block siya para hindi niya ma-open talaga yung app or a website. So, in your computer, you can set websites. For example, Facebook. If kayo din, distracted kayo with Facebook or hirap kayo mag-stop sa Facebook, si self-control app, you can type there, self-control app, and then i-type ninyo facebook.com, si Facebook hindi mo talaga ma-open for a specific amount of time na isa-set mo. So, yung kid ninyo, kapag for example, iset mo yung self-control app na hindi siya maka-Roblox ng 8 to 5. So, you're gonna set, 9 hours. So, iset mo yung timer ng 9 hours, hindi niya ma-open yung Roblox until 5 o'clock. And then, pagka 5 o'clock, ma-open na. So, ganun yung app na yan. And then, even if they delete the app, they still can't open it. Even if they restart the computer, i-reformat mo pa yan, hindi talaga siya ma-open yung app until the timer is done. So you can use that one. And then, so that's the first one, environmental modification muna. Kasi yung pag-stop po niya with the roadblocks, kapag ka nadidistract, it already requires catching himself kapag ka distracted. And it's a little difficult kapag hindi pa siya na-develop ng kid mo and kapag yung kalaban mo talaga si Roblox, very entertaining. Okay, so you can't expect yet. Ang purpose ng app is, since hindi mo pa na-develop yung impulse control and yung discipline sa child, pang ano mo muna siya, pang adaptation. And then, yung goal mo is for your kid to develop that impulse control and the discipline, doon mo na pwedeng i-decrease yung use ng app na yun. Okay, so yun yung pwede mong gawin. Now, with that one, you can process with your kid kung kailan pwedeng gamitin si Roblox. You can process bakit, ano yung negative effects if they use the Roblox during class time or kapag ganyan. And then, you can also decrease it talaga. Like, you can limit it during the weekends. Kasi, ganun din, if you see, even if good yung Roblox for socialization, you still need to set the limits for your kid. Kasi, madali lang siya, allowed sila for a max of 1 hour or 2 hours, pero madalas talaga lumalagpas. It's really difficult to, para kayong magiging police on your kid. So, it's best if limit nyo lang in a certain day or ano niyo talaga for your kid. Kasi maging, paano ba? Kahit na-controlled siya yung time niya na playing with the Roblox, magkakaroon pa rin siya ng difficulty with the actual worksheets na activities. Kasi nga, sanay yung brain niya with automatic reinforcement, yung mabilis na sounds and lights, which is really difficult to do. Wala namang worksheet, mga module na may pailaw-ilaw effect, di ba? Pag nakatama sila, walang yay! O pag nakatama, di ba, nakatumpak sila, hindi siya tulad nung sa game na kapag nakapatay sila, like, good job, or yay, you win, mga ganyan. Walang ganun sa exam, okay? So, if sana meron lang, and if yung mga test papers may ganun na feature, di ba? So, mas easier sana for our kids. But since wala, you want to decrease lang din the time, okay, na naka-online siya para to help muna achieve your goal of increasing your focus and attention. So, i-control nyo muna yung time. If they're playing with hours and hours, like 4 hours, i-limit nyo muna to 2, and then 1, and then i-stop nyo muna yung limit niya for the day, and then you can have the playtime talaga set for the weekend. Kasi even with that strategy pa lang, yung pag-decrease ng screen time niya, ang dami nyo nang ma-observe with the focus and attention ng kid ninyo. Kasi their brain, hindi na siya ganun ka nagko-compete with yung sabi ko na sounds and lights and all the reinforcement doon. Di ba, mas rewarding for them yung sa gadget kasi mas mabilis yung response, like mas mabilis yung yay, you win, sounds, blah, 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 blah. Ganyan. So, you want to decrease it muna para ipalit nyo yung sa worksheets, and then, of course, you want the worksheets, the modules to be as reinforcing as the games. So, dun papasok yung kailangan mo maging interesting din, maging fun as a playmate, mga ganyan na mga strategies. Okay? Sige. And meron po bang reason why nila ginagawa yun? Hello, Mami Rhea. Baka pwedeng ano ninyo which one you meant? Yung why nila ginagawa? Saan dun sa sinabi ko? Ayan. Ayan. Okay. Mami Rhea. Okay. Ito pala. Yung tiptoeing. Okay. We can cover this in the next live kasi this one is similar, or you can rewatch this and then check po that part where I talk about yung sa chin. It's the same principle. Yung diniscuss ko kanina, I'm gonna repeat it if I cover this one now. Because same pa rin. Tiptoe is more on sensory aspect. They have an increased need for it. So you have to identify when, where, and then also provide yung sensory need before it happens para mag-decrease. Okay, so I've seen a lot of my kids na kapag ganito, we do the sensory activities, sensory-based activities na mag-decrease siya. And minsan if i-add natin with another, like when you target gross motor skills, mawawala din naman siya later on. Yeah, but if you're interested to learn more, if you haven't registered yet, we're gonna have the Smart Kid Day 1 tomorrow. We're gonna cover sensory integration. Ayan siya. Sana naman matuloy. We hope we have a legislator to take notice on the growing needs of these neurodivergent individuals. Yes, tama po talaga. And I hope mas malaking budget yung ibigay ng government. Uh, I think hopefully we can invite someone po na meron, kasi meron pong ibang LGUs na merong programs for it. I know Quezon City has one that's really good. They have a program that was pioneered by two OTs. So they have this center there na para dito, and they also allot budget talaga just to work on, parang meron silang volunteers and also professionals na mag-work in that center. And then meron na rin silang evaluation, treatments na i-provide doon, especially for those na hindi kaya yung therapy services. Okay. Nag-ano na yung voice. Kaya pa ba? Kaya niyo pa ba? It's already 9:43. Okay, sige. And we still have, I'm so excited na rin kasi it's day one of the Smart Kid program tomorrow. If you haven't yet, you can register sa Growth Smart Kid. We only have 5,000 pesos to reserve a slot. And yes, that already includes 6 weeks. It's a 6-week program and also already includes a one-on-one coaching call with me para mas mapag-usapan pa po natin with your kid and ano yung steps now. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mami Rhea. And we can also, if it doesn't satisfy yung ano po, explanation, you can join the Smart Kid program, or we could also target this one in our next live video. Mami Mato. Oh, I hope a lot of Pinoy therapists can read this book. Sobrang hanga rin talaga ako sa mga Pinoy therapists. Ang laki na ng improvement ng anak ko since nag-start siya ng 3.5 years old na siya. He's really smart. Hindi ko alam siguro gagawin talaga kung hindi siya naka-therapy. Yay! Thank you so much, Mami Mato. And I hope na marito ng mga OTs. Screenshot ko muna. Kasi I think this would really also be very reinforcing for them, also empowering kasi of course it looks like parang day to day, hindi agad nakikita yung improvement, but of course they really appreciate it when they read this comment knowing na helpful din yung work namin with kids, with your kids. Ayan siya. Okay. Sige. So we have, let's go muna kasi we skipped to question number 3. Grow 3 to 1 tayo, nasa question number 3 pa tayo. Sige, let's go muna to question. We skipped kasi question number 1 kasi we were talking all sensory today. Oh, we just uploaded this one. And actually, ito yung sa kanina, yung sa case natin sa very first one, we just skipped this one. Pero, ayan siya, sa kanya galing why we uploaded this, saying no on teaching your child to respect boundaries is still a way of showing love. And yeah, we'll go back to this one. Ito yung lesson 1 natin today. Instead of yung evidence-based practice. Wait lang, balik tayo. We still have questions number 1 and 2. Number 1, activities for high functional late childhood autism spectrum disorder, and where to find tips for social stories. Thanks. Where to find or have tips for social stories. This is from Chiyin. She's an OT din. For resources, you can check out the OT Toolbox. Although marami sa resources dun paid, that's why I would prefer, ako, main suggestion ko talaga is that you, get the story from the parent and then you make your own. Kasi I find it a lot easier when I use Canva, kasi ang dami ng pictures sa Canva. You can already create your own social stories. I-ask mo na muna yung parent mo with the situation they're going through. And then you try to make a specific social story for it. Now, depending on that specific situation, you can build up from it. So, for example, I have a kid na hirap makipag-friends. Meron akong kid now na hirap siya he's having a hard time dealing with going back to school. Kasi, di ba, a lot of kids now are going back to face-to-face classes. And Actually, magre-record pa ako ng video for this. Ito dapat yung OTTTT natin. Facial Therapy Tools and Tips Thursdays. And then, ito yung i-show ko now. I'm gonna show an example of how we deal with it. Where is the picture? It should be a screenshot. Wait lang. I can't find it tuloy. Or wait lang, wait lang. Icons. So for that one, yun, tools to grow, and then also making your own stories then, and then you go by theme. So for example, yung kid ko na yun having a hard time, yung case namin na kinover was that he's feeling shy. So you want to cover as many social situations that covered interacting with other kids. So we started with greeting, pictures, kung saan yung ibang kids magkalapit, like naka-group sila, and then siya nasa labas ng group. So let's say, for example, ito, kita ba? So meron kami picture na itong kids, may group of kids dito and then siya andito. And then looking at the group of kids, if kailan siya pwedeng pumasok dun sa conversation. So you have to read, are they masyadong private, masyadong close yung group nila? So that means they have to wait for a signal kung kailan papasok. So they have to wait if one of the characters here would look at them or pwedeng invite or call their name. That means they can join the group. Or kapag sabog yung group, ibig sabihin kapag kahiwa-hiwalay sila, they're more open and mas fun, mas easier for them to join the group. Mga ganyan. So you have to try to simulate as many possible situations as you can. So may part dito na you have to anticipate kung ano yung possible social situations na ma-encounter niya. Kasi with that one, isa pa lang yun, kailan papasok sa group. Meron din, they have to deal with a person na hindi nakikinig sa kanila. How do you deal if yung person na kausap mo nakatingin somewhere else? How do you call their attention? And kahit yung stage pa lang na they have to check if yung person, if yung kausap nila nakikinig sa kanila kasi there are a lot of kids na if they get really interested with the topic, like they love Pokemon so much or they love this new movie, like they love Encanto, they can keep going and going and going about the topic, or they love may bagong Marvel movie like Thor, and keep going talking about Thor and dinosaurs and yun yung topic nila and they don't check na yung person pala na kausap ko hindi na nakikinig. So you have to teach that one to your kid. They catch the situation, nakita, they check other people in the conversation. So part pa lang yun ng conversation. They also have to check their body posture, their volume, all of that one. You have to incorporate, and then that's why context siya. So if you're dealing halimbawa with if you're dealing with school, you have to anticipate lahat ng situations in school from the moment they enter school. You have to deal with recess, how to tell if recess, how to tell if ang teacher nagdi-discuss, how to tell if group time, how to tell all of that one. It's really contextual when it comes to social skills. Ang daming kailangan on it. And then for high functional activities, I go with executive functions and also yung multi-session na activities. So I have favorite, excited na ako for the summer kasi ito yung part ng year na my kids, what we do is at the start of summer, we schedule it. So, for example, dito papasok na older yung kid, we see all the days kung kailan kami magmi-meet. So, I have that calendar with my kid na, when do we meet? So, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, we meet Tuesdays and Thursdays kasi yun yung mga days ko for online therapy. So, Tuesday, ganyan. So, weekdays. So, if mag-meet kami Wednesday, Friday, ito yung days namin, ganyan. And then we're gonna schedule. So, we have May ganito, June ganyan, July. And then we'll schedule an art activity. So you schedule an art activity, kapag younger kid, di ba, ang nangyayari, focus natin art activity and then we work with the gross motor skills, fine motor skills, following instructions, ganyan. Kahit yung sensory integration aspect pa lang or tolerating the pain. So this time, you work with the planning aspect na, like preparing materials, breaking down the steps, monitoring themselves. Are you done? What are the next steps? Mga ganyan na activities. Sila na mismo yung magpa-plan, pipili, mga ganyan. So, medyo ikaw as a therapist and as a parent, you have to let go a bit of the control. So, instead of directive, ibig sabihin, ikaw yung, ito gawin mo, ito gawin mo, ito gawin mo. You give them some control na kasi you want them to also practice their executive function skills. So yun yung sa the strong kid natin. But again, I want matagal pa yun i-offer. So I want to this early pa lang since when we offer it, mas tumanda na yung kid ninyo. So you can work on that aspect na magpa-plan kayo, magkaganyan, pipili sila ng activities, ng parts. So sila mismo magde-decide. And then when the date comes, the next week, before the session, mag-recap na kami. What activity do we have planned? What do you need to prepare? So that means before we start next week, you need this. And then when we do the activity, ito yung lista of steps na gagawin natin. Parang ganyan siya. Okay, so sila na yung mag-keep track nung ano nila, nung behavior, anong ginagawa nila bale. Sige. Mommy Kim, ang question niya is 4 years old yung son ko. Di pa siya napadiagnose pero pansin ko po delay siya. Ano po kaya first step na gawin? Therapy po ba muna? Thanks po. You can already schedule po DepEd consult. Pero kapag ka matagal pa months, I've worked with kids na nag-therapy muna kami, also have a report prepared before they go to the DepEd kasi they need, it also helps yung report din ng OT before you have the consult with the DepEd. I've had a kid work with me na we worked for like 8 months ata bago siya nagka-DepEd visit, and then when we worked with the DepEd with the developmental milestones, inano na siya nung DepEd by 8 months. Like yung na-observe namin, we did the standardized test again, and like, okay, meron pa rin concerns dun sa fine motors niya and sa handwriting, but the DepEd decided na parang it's okay muna, we'll decrease muna yung session, and then gradually decrease. And then kapag meron pa rin hindi mahabol talaga ng milestone, then we continue. Pero kapag hindi, then we discontinue. And then with that kid, I was working on na ano namin, yung lahat ng sinet na goals namin. So that's why we had to work on that one. Kaya it's, you can ask po, you can consult with your therapy center if may pwede nang maka-work on na therapist. And then you can inform na rin po the therapist na mag-work with your kid na wala pang DepEd, ano yung pwedeng possible activities na maano ninyo ma-work on. Kasi paano ba? Medyo careful lang tayo with this one kasi the best talaga na approach here, kailangan ng referral si OT, okay, before they can start working. Now, the reason why I started working with that kid was because the teacher was already giving parang may concerns na si teacher. And also, both parents were having a lot of concerns at home. And yung isang aspect pa doon was that both parents were actually having a conflict na rin because of what was happening with the kids. So that's why we had to work on it as fast as we can. Pero hindi siya, paano ba? How do you call this? More on anticipatory yung ginawa namin na approach. Ibig sabihin, we were working on kapag ito yung maging problem, this is what we work on na skills, and then ano muna namin yung foundations ni kid, and also work up on the mas skills na mas advanced para when they go na to the DepEd, and also when they go back to the teacher, when they deal with the other problems surrounding those contexts, matanggal na nila yun, and then what's going to happen is mas ma-pinpoint namin yung problem. Now, that's why what happened was that when we covered all those bases na pwede namin ma-target doon sa initial aspect ng therapy, na ano nung doctor na okay na siya pumasok into mainstream and ganyan-ganyan. Yung bumalik into the actual, yung mainstream niya bali na school with a decreased need for OT, tapos gradually magde-decrease kami pa later on. So, you can ask po your therapy center. Honest din naman yung mga therapy center. They can see if they have a program for it or not. So, it's best if you consult with them if they're ready. So, to answer your question, it depends on the therapy center if they have a program that could accept your kid or not. So, yun siya. So, kasi if they have naman, then you can start, especially if yung DepEd ninyo months pa talaga yung nakaset na consult. Pero, if yung consult ninyo halimbawa for the DepEd, 1 month na lang or 2 months, then why not wait for it to get a better diagnosis? And when you go naman to the OT, mas better din yung evaluation na magagawa nila sa anak niyo. So yun yung titingnan mo, yung length of the schedule ng DepEd visit, and number two, yung capability of the therapy center and your therapist to work with the child. Ayan siya. So, hindi naman siya agad-agad when you go to a therapy center na parang automatic treatment. They go with hindi din evaluation agad. They go with a screening process to check if your child needs it or not. Ayan siya. So, before evaluation, screening muna. I-observe muna nila if need or hindi. And last one from Mami Bonbon, we have, my loved one is 4-year-old and he cannot control his emotions. Either manggigigil siya kung excited or throw things kung upset. Oh, we have, ano po, for that one, Mami Bonbon, we covered that one earlier, yung sa case natin, na yung kid, na nag-throw and ang pupush yung kid when frustrated. So I think you can rewatch the video. That's the main case that we covered tonight. So yun siya. You can go back to that one to see my answer for this one. Ayan. Okay. Sige. So we go to question number 2 now. Good day, sir. What was the most challenging situation you faced as an OT and how did you overcome it? Now, actually, yung story ko for this one, I shared sa behavior management by Black Sheep. So, yun yung tinutukan na ako ng kutsilyo nung kid. Dumating kami sa point na gano'n na home situation pa. So, we were in their house and then tinutukan na ako ng kutsilyo ng bata. So, ayun, yun yung moment na parang nag-isip na ako na dito ba may end yung life ko, Lord? In the hands of a 9-year-old kid. Tapos kutsilyo pa, so ibig sabihin, inisip ko na, Lord, yung picture ko sa newspaper nakadugo-dugo, and then bata na ganyan. So, yun siya. But that kid was a learning, for me, it was a learning point din of how important it is to, dun sa behavior aspect, you can learn about it sa behavior management, but how important it is to be consistent kasi iba yung call talaga ng child na yun. Iba yung approach ng dad with the mom, iba yung level of strictness and yung pagiging lenient. So, hindi naging consistent, hindi nagiging, hindi team bale. Bale yung team nila, kasi pag mag-asawa kayo, dapat team kayo. Lalo na kapag, if you're dealing with iba yung approach ni Lola, ni Lolo, ni Tita, Tito, mga kapitbahay niyo, nakikimarites pa. Bakit mo ganyan pinapalaki yung anak mo? Di ba? Dami ko comments. So, of course, you have to make sure na kayo as mag-asawa, solid muna yung approach niyo. It has to be very consistent para mag-start muna sa inyo and then you can expand that to the relatives and even to the teacher going outside. Kasi kapag kayong dalawa pa lang magkaiba ng approach, sobrang hirap talaga. Kasi, again, children are smart. They learn and they will learn na kayang lusutan, iba-iba yung approach sa kanila ng iba-ibang tao. So, mangyayari, they get to that point where they know na rin how to lusot yung mga reinforcement and consequences ng behaviors nila. So, that's why you really have to be a team. That's when I started working then more closely with the parents, with both the mom and the dad. And hindi kasi in therapy naman hindi naman kailangan both andun present all the time kasi I understand na syempre busy yung parents, especially now na lalo na kapag dalawa nagtatrabaho at the same time, you can expect both parents to be there all the time, diba? So very special cases lang yun for me to have both parents present all the time in every therapy session. So that's a good parang hallelujah Lord, that's a blessing na yan for me if that happens kasi it's a lot easier to work with. Pero kapag ganyan, yung case ko din kanina with the yung may nagtanong si Mommy Kim dun sa pag-diagnose, yun din yung problem actually. Iba yung approach nila. So when we started with that one, yung parents mismo, kasi they have to be in the same team. You have to really work with your spouse kasi kayong direct madalas ka work on with the kid. So yung most reinforcement and consequences they get from you. So that's why you have to work closely with your OT para same kayo ng approach sama yung teacher, sama si yaya, sama yung relatives, para everybody, your kid will know na, kahit sino yung gawan ko nito, ito yung response nila lahat. So your kid will learn na ganun. Okay, so parang ganun na parang kahit sino yung gagawan ko nito, ito talaga yung consequence for it. Okay, so mas solid yung team ninyo, it's a lot easier to handle. And syempre, maiiwasan din yung part, uh, ma- ang pinaka-stress ko siguro na na-work with na parent, I mean, sila yung super stressed, if feel nila lahat kalaban nila. Kasi I have a case talaga, a parent talaga na yung mom, kasama niya palagi yung lola, and the husband yung wala, and then lola keeps telling her what to do. Eh, pag masyadong strict, may comment. Kapag masyadong lenient, may comment. And si mommy, andun pa yung lahat ng tita, and ganyan, and they have a lot of comments. Eh, that kid was still learning. Parang ano pa kami ng approach. Tinitimpla pa yung approach with that kid. So, of course, with that one, kailangan mo i-adapt talaga, and it's really stressful kapag ang dami mong kalaban, eh, you're still gaining confidence in managing your child. So that's why you want really talaga as much, very important talaga yung support. You have to explain to everyone ano yung ginagawa mo. And that's why you have to be very confident din with your approach. Kasi hindi ka dapat magpatinag dun sa ano ng iba, yung parang negative comments, yung tingin pa lang, iba na yung iniisip, feel mo iba na yung iniisip nila. But if you understand your kid naman, you know naman na sure ako sa ginagawa ko, lang pakialam. Like, even if umiyak yung kid ko now, and then ito yung nangyari, kaya siya umiyak dahil dito, if you can explain it to them after. Basta right now, I'm dealing with my kid, okay? Ayaw ko na ma-learn ng kid ko na if andyan kayo, nagbabago yung approach ko. So right now, understand na ito muna yung gagawin ko for my kid, and then we're dealing with a new na behavior management approach, and then I need you to be on the same team as I am kasi if not, you're gonna deal with a lot of problems and ganyan siya. Okay? So, ayan siya. Okay, so that's it. Kaya siya challenging pala for me kasi ako din personally, as an OT naman, meron din akong before, personal issue naman siya for me na syempre I have doubts din. I started working, nag-graduate ako 20 and then I got licensed 21. Nag-birthday ako before the board before the board exam. So I was 21 when I started working. So the initial thought in my brain was like, sino ka ba para magbigay ng advice, di ba, to parents? And that's also a big din on my part. That's why I got delayed talaga. Matagal ko na gustong mag-start ng YouTube channel, ng Facebook page, doing all these live videos. Kahit na I've got so much experience na I've had a lot of doubts din in myself na parang sino ka ba to give advice, di ba? Kasi hindi ka naman parent, hindi ka naman ganyan. Pero, of course, dun sa behavior management by a black sheep, I had a different approach. I had a different perspective. Kasi in that, dun sa behavior by a management by a black sheep, ako yung child in the story. Ako yung behavior ko yung minanage ng parents ko. Okay, so merong perspective now na ako yung kid, and ito yung behaviors, and this is what went through my mind, and ito yung techniques na ginamit ng parents ko, this is what did not work, this is what worked. And kita ko with the kids I work with, kung kailan nila ginagamit yung mga techniques ko before, na parang, uy, kung ganyan, ginamit ko na yan before, okay? So, hindi ako black sheep hindi ako black sheep for no reason, di ba? So, nagamit ko na yan, very familiar, itong ganito mo na behavior, I did that, I did worse. And also, when you deal with a therapist, as a therapist now, the goal is not for me to be a parent, which is, ako rin, nakita ko siya as a strength later on, na parang it's useful if I don't have a kid, hindi ko nare-refer kasi may mga pamangkin ako, syempre, that I also interact with. Pero hindi ko sila ginagawang reference for my kids na sa work. Kasi, una, masya-shock ako minsan with my mga pamangkin ko na ganitong age pa lang nagsasalita or ganitong skill. Pero, wait lang, ganitong age pa siya nagsasalita, mga ganyan. So, nagbabago yung ko minsan, yung parang yung age na expectation ko na parang, oo nga, kasi sa norm, yung ganitong age, dapat ganito na yung amount of words, ganito na yung behavior, ganito na yung approach, ganyan. So, naninibago minsan. And also, kapag may specific ako na kid na hina-handle, like, as my child, makaka-develop kayo ng specific approach na ito yung effective. So that's why, since we're dealing with Autism Acceptance Month, that's why they say na if you deal with one child with autism, you only know one child with autism. Kasi every child with autism is like very unique and very different talaga. Kaya yung mga questions ninyo, if rigidity or yung ganyan, sensory seeking, you really have to break down and analyze. Kahit same po kayo, you have two kids, okay, kahit twins pa yan, in the same household, they have a different set of sensory systems, different set of favorites, different sets of attitude, ganyan. You have to break down a kid talaga and then like try to see ano ba yung mga unique aspects of this kid kasi iba talaga yung approach mo for that kid. Okay? So that's the strength on my part din na that I work with so many families kasi nakita ko na itong approach, this works for these types of kids. Ito na approach, kailangan ko baguhin. Magbabago din yung approach mo for this type of parent versus this type of parent. So essentially, I know na when you have a group of parents working with me, they go into a group, you could hear na iba yung approach ni Teacher Cesar sa akin, iba yung ginagawa ni Teacher Cesar with my kid because you're working with so many different goals, so many different ages, different milestones, different schools, different homes, different dynamics, and you have to take all of that into consideration to target ano yung goals ninyo, ano yung approach, okay? Kasi hindi pwede na, that's why hindi pwede na meron kang, yung always ko sinasabi na you have to be careful when they say na this program works for all types of kids, or we will make sure na your kid with autism will parang ma-cure namin or ma-heal, ganyan. Okay? Kasi if that specific program is like fixed na even before they met the child, okay, parang how do you know it works? You haven't even met the child. Diba? So parang ganun yung, the program has to adapt to the child. And that works even for evidence-based practice. The child is taken into consideration. Hindi siya yung, ito yung program, yung kid ko yung mag-adjust. Hindi siya ganun. It has to keep changing depending on the child. Even na during one session, mag-change siya within that time frame dahil na ang daming different na response ng each child to different types of approaches. Ayun siya. I noticed my child always shouting. He knows. For the shouting part, you can check that one, and I think we'll screenshot this one kasi we can talk about communication in another live natin. Yeah. Kasi it's completely another set of milestones and yung approaches din natin na kailangan gamitin. Oh, Mommy Rhea. Ayan. But for the shouting, you can review po kanina. We have for shouting. Ayan. But for this, itong smart and can't use words in a sentence or one word at a time. We can look at it in another time po kasi there's so many considerations, the age, the level, the approach. You have to look at that to work on the kid, especially my shouting aspect. Okay. Ayan siya. Okay, we have done stop drumming. For this one, see non-stop drumming, you can, kanina we talked about, what was that behavior? Jumping and also tiptoeing. So we covered that earlier in the video, in the live video. You can use a sensory approach where you can determine kung saan part siya nag-drum. It could be auditory, it could be kinesthetic. Ganyan, titignan niyo muna kung ano yung sensory system. I think meron bang somebody here who was listening sa pinaka-start pa ng live natin, I think you can see the system that I use to break down these behaviors and these observations in kids. So, pwede siyang i-system talaga you have to identify po, Mommy Rhea, when it happens, where it happens, what causes it, the triggers. And then, you can see if you could use a sensory approach, a cognitive approach, or pwedeng developmental approach with your kid. So for that one, you can rewatch the video dun sa part where somebody asked about jumping and also yung tiptoeing. You could use the same approach, sensory aspect, and ayan siya. And again, if you haven't registered yet, you can also join the Smart Kid program. Day 1 is tomorrow. So the link is there sa baba. Bit.ly link natin, Growth Smart Kid. where we will talk about these repetitive restrictive behaviors, lahat ng sensory behaviors, and then also come up with solutions where you can come up with your own sensory diet at home. And if you already rewatched the video po, and then it's parang medyo kulang sa inyo, we can talk about this one in the next live natin. Where's the comments? Para ano natin yung step by step. Okay. Sige. Wait lang. See, we'll go back muna to the slides. We have a question from Mommy Gay, and then we can ano pa Mommy Rhea. We'll try to add more details for that tonight. Pero we'll ano muna move on with the questions, or we can go to two toys, and then we'll go back to the follow-up question. So we can go from 3 to 2. Ayan siya. Okay, so this is number 3 kanina. Ayan pa, what to do if super sensory seeking ang kid, how to perform the sensory diet. So this also answers ni Mommy Rhea. We answered this kanina po. So earlier part of the video, if you rewatch this video, I think you will find a lot of answers already for drumming. And again, if hindi pa rin, you can join the Smart Kid program, or you can answer this next time. Two toys. Ayan siya. Okay, so for two toys today, we're gonna show two na connected to dolls. And we have here this doll. Oh my, I can see. Ayan, okay. Ayan siya. Okay, so we have the doll here. Ito yung first ko na doll. I think if you've seen the growth video, yung toys natin, I paired with this one. And the reason why I want to talk about dolls today is because yung topic natin is OT and Autism Acceptance Month. And the reason why we're talking with dolls is because it's very important that you invest a lot of time in pretend play. Sobrang daming time natin, nilalagay natin in literacy and numeracy and handwriting. And I understand because dito kasi madalas yung strength ng kids natin, especially with autism, kasi they're so good with numbers and letters. Like we have Mommy, kanina, he's smart, with Mommy Rhea, very smart, and then they can't use words pa in a sentence, and then he can only say one word at a time. So we see kids now who watch a lot of videos, they watch educational videos, they memorize pati yung pasok ng sound effect, yung letter, alam nila saan ilalagay, paano i-sequence yung alphabet. Even very young kids, they could already read so early, which could be a sign of, kahit strength siya that they could read. Pwedeng possible sign din siya of hyperlexia. Yun yung from the word hyper, sobra, and then lexia, yung reading. Okay? So masyadong advanced. And it's a strength, but at the same time, what you don't want to happen is that dito mag-focus lahat ng time ninyo na hindi na bibigyan ng pansin yung social aspect, pati yung social communication and social interaction skills ng kids, which is where the pretend play comes in. Okay? Kasi si pretend play, hindi lang siya academic, hindi lang siya cognitive part, it deals with the social and the relational goals din with your kids, social emotional goals niya. Especially sa part, the very foundation here is your child will develop joint attention. Yun yung pag-observe niya sa inyo while you're playing. Hopefully, which will translate into them being curious with other people. Okay? Kasi when you deal with social skills, your child will need to read the room muna. Di ba, pansin niyo, for us adults, for example, if you go to a new restaurant, and then, I always use this as an example to the parents who work with. Now, when you go to a restaurant, you don't know how to act in this specific restaurant. For example, sanay ka with fast food. Like, you go to fast food, alam mo na ito yung cashier. Di ba? May part sa room na pagpasok mo, merong linya, merong babae sa likod ng computer, ganyan, merong lista doon sa taas. So, you know this is a fast food restaurant, you know how to act, you know how to behave, ganyan. Okay? And then, in a fine dining restaurant, you behave in a different way versus yung casual dining restaurant versus yung mga nakasurround yung sa ramen place, mga ganyan. And then, of course, if new ka and you weren't able to research ahead, the way you try to act is you read people, you observe them, and then see, oh, ganito pala mag-act in this type of restaurant. Ganito pala yung gagawin to order in this restaurant. Okay? So when your kid doesn't develop this skill of observing other people or even become, being curious in the people they interact with, syempre they're gonna have a hard time behaving properly. Lalo na if yung focus nila is more on the toy, more on the academic, more on the words, ganyan, and they don't know when to use it or how to use it with other people. So that's why the pretend play comes in, and I'm starting with this one. Ito yung parang self-care kit because it's the easiest way to deal with pretend play. Now, pretend play, ang development niya starts with the very familiar, that starts with the very obvious, hindi, yung frequency, everyday niya na-observe. So dito papasok yung self-care pretend play, dito papasok yung bihis, ligo, even tulog na pretend play. Sleep, oh, time to wake up yun, it's already 6 a.m., let's check the clock, oh, look, the sun is rising, yung mga ganyan. So, mga drama-drama skills ninyo, dito papasok. And of course, you want your kid to start muna at home, how they interact with you, mag-move muna siya, start muna siya with self-care, moving towards house care naman, yung mga chores na, so pretend linis, pretend luto, pretend ganyan, diba? So naka-level, pati yung pretend play, kaya sabi ko yung work ng OT talaga laro, pero even if it's play, it's really backed by science, hindi lang siya laro-laro. There are stages that you observe. That's part of pretend play pa lang yan. Wala pa yung constructive, wala pa yung games with rules, wala pa yung sensory motor, wala pa yung social level of play, naka-measure yan, number of people they interact with, gano'ng kalayo, yung kanina, yung sabi natin na parallel, kailan papasok si turn taking, ano ba yun? Turn taking, sharing, borrowing, ganyan naka-level din yan lahat. Okay? So, a good start is pretend play. You can use dolls. Again, self-care start. And what you want to observe is joint attention and then imitation din sa inyo. Ipa-follow niya sa inyo. Of course, starting with actions na everyday naman kikita. Later on, chores. Later on to community, mga fireman, ganyan. Later on to fantasy, mga superheroes, yung hindi niya na ganun nakikita. Okay. And then, I hope it answered your question din, Mami Rhea, for this one. And i-connect natin yung kay Mommy Gay. Ay, wait lang. Isang toy pa pala tayo. Na-distract ako. Wait lang. And ito, si Potato Head next. Kasi parang sinasolidify niya rin yung awareness ng kid mo with their body, which is really useful kapag yung kid mo meron problems with sensory integration with the sensory system, especially in proprioception. So, which of course, sabi natin yung sensation ng galing sa muscles, the joints. We're gonna cover that tomorrow sa first day ng Smart Kid. Ang mangyayari, since hirap sila with receiving sensations, okay, since hirap sila with receiving sensations, you're gonna expect they're gonna have a hard time interpreting the sensation and also using the sensation to act. That's why you will have your kids having a hard time planning out yung motor planning na sinasabi ng OT ninyo to yung pag-deal nila with obstacle courses or problem solving, ano yung gagawin in this new type of movement activity kasi parang since hirap sila with knowing saan yung position ng body nila, how could you expect them to crawl under? Like, paano ko ba igagalaw yung arm ko when I don't even know where my arm is? How could I jump if I don't know if bent na yung knees ko or is it high enough? Okay, yung feedback system nila hindi ganun ka nag-work or hindi ganun ka accurate yung binibigay na information sa kanila or possible na they could be seeking, they could be avoiding, ganyan na behaviors. Okay? So this is very useful to help them learn about their body. Dito papasok din yung drawing, dito papasok yung mga mirrors, yung mirror natin na video. So you have that on our YouTube channel if you haven't followed yet. And again, we're gonna cover that tomorrow din. Hindi pala tomorrow to na topic. This is for next week, yung gross motor skills sa The Smart Kid program natin. Ayan siya. So yun yung two toys natin. So we start with the doll. Again, focus on pretend play and then si Mr. Potato Head is for body awareness. You might have read a post, I think I mentioned this in a video na you might have read a post na parang si Mr. Potato Head bakit daw kailangan siya functional? Like it has to be part of the dapat accurate yung pagpasok niya ng parts. Now, you're gonna work, of course, even if you have one toy, it doesn't mean that you're gonna target lang one level of play. Of course, yung part kung saan niya randomly ilagay yung eye sa baba, dito, yung exploration, yung part na mag-experiment lang siya, wala ka pang goal of teaching yung body parts talaga, that's one level of play. Okay? Pwedeng sensory motor pa yan. Yung pag-part pa lang na pasla, ano yung Tagalog ng pasla? Pasok? Yeah, pasla pa like shoot ba? Yeah, pag-shoot na, yes, ano na ako na, pagod na, bumabalik na sa default ko na Bisaya. But yeah, sa Bisaya, it's paslap. Tagalog pasok, yeah, you're gonna shoot the body part in the appropriate hole. Of course, kahit yung pag-shoot pa lang, even if it's not that accurate yet, ano naman siya, that's play in itself. But of course, you have to move to another goal, pwedeng cognitive na, body awareness na, or body concept. That's when you, of course, have to work with the correct placement na kahit na yung post na nagsasabi na hindi dapat functional yung play, of course, it moves to a level na kailangan ganun. Okay, so it doesn't have to be exclusive. Like this toy could even be constructive. Pwede mong iganyan. Or if you want to work towards this, they could already make their own, if you want to level up, make their own Mr. Potato Head copy using yung mga Lego bricks or possible with Play-Doh. So they could use brown Play-Doh, you can roll it, ganyan-ganyan. So sila yung gagawa ng body and then make parts, papalo mo to. That becomes constructive play. Or you could have games with rules. You could take turns, mga roll the die, and then depending on the body part they can get, ima-match ninyo, you can add rules. So even with just one toy, kaya mong i-cover lahat ng cognitive levels of play depending lang on how creative you are and how you can adapt your goals for that specific kid. Para with that one din, ma-maximize mo, di ba? Kasi lalo na yung mga toys na, yung mga toys hindi naman mura, di ba? So that you want to maximize yung benefits mo from one toy. So yung ganitong toy, matibay, you could use this sa younger age ng kid mo hanggang tumanda na, hanggang ipasa mo na, ganyan. You can target so many different levels of play and goals sa play ng kid mo. Okay. Yes, done already with our two toys. And let's go to Mommy Gay and Mommy Louise. Pag ayaw niya, pinapanood niya, nagsistemin siya what to do. If that one po comes out lang, if ayaw niya yung pinapanood niya, you're not dealing with sensory. If very specific na kapag sa pinapanood, I have a kid na ang treatment namin for this was to have play buttons, play and next. Yung parang isipin mo yung button sa YouTube na play, di ba? May play button and may next button. So we have a play button to play and to stop. Para yun yung way niya of communicating to play and stop a music video. And then kapag ayaw niya, we play, you press next. So instead of stimming, ang way niya is to communicate na they don't want that video, they want to next. Kahit hindi niya pa nasasabi yung word na next, they understand naman symbols. And especially kids now, kahit di pa nagsasalita, ang galing na with tablets, di ba? So you can start with that one muna. Ayan siya. Hello, Daddy John Lord. Watching with my iPhone 13 Pro Max, 256 gig fully paid. Ayan. Congrats for fully paid. Ayan. Luis, Mommy Luis, do you agree po na we should not stop them from stimming since stimming helps? Yes. Yes. Yes yung answer ko dito. Kasi si stimming, it's a means for them to deal with the world. It's not just like, it's not a problem behavior. It's not something you want to, kasi ito yung part na kapag behavior lang yung approach mo, you want to extinguish, in mga words, extinguish the behavior, reduce, remove the behavior, ganyan. So again, you have to go with the why muna. Okay, you have to go with the why muna. Bakit niya to ginagawa? And if the stimming comes really from regulating, kung nakikita niyo po na lumalabas and lumalala, if masyadong maraming sounds, masyadong stressful, masyadong pinapaupo ninyo, and worksheet tayo, module tayo na mas grabe siya, mas grabe yung kailangan din nila na need to modulate. Okay, that's when you want to teach your kid other strategies than stimming. Okay, so you can work with environmental modifications, also with other self-soothing strategies. Yung hindi lang yung stimming nila. Okay, so yeah, I would go with don't stop it. Try to explore it muna, and then find better parang strategies na kayang gamitin ng kid ninyo. Okay, ayan siya. Screen test, screen test. Hello, John Lawrence. Ayan siya. Okay, so I think we're down to the last one na, and we're going to talk about one lesson. Done with two toys, and we're going to our one lesson. Actually, we're supposed to talk about evidence-based practice and why it's useful to have a balance dun sa evidence-based practice. But I think we can have that one in our next na na live about evidence-based practice. And we'll go na lang muna to end with our case kanina. For a while, to end with Aiko's question. Let's go back to the very start. And before we end, I want to thank everybody who's been spending hours with me tonight. I know I'm busy ninyo. Tomorrow's still a weekday. I don't know why. I also go live on a Tuesday or Thursday. Pero parang yung favorite day ko na yung Thursday. OTTTT, live natin. Also tell me if you want us to go live on a Tuesday, if you're free Tuesday. Kasi para mas marami naman sa atin live on a Thursday. So tell me if you want us to have these sessions on Tuesday. Kasi I think last time, medyo tayo, mabilis. I think an hour we were done already, 1 hour 20 minutes. But today, umabot tayo ng 2.5. So if you have a lot of questions, para ma-spread out natin throughout the week, and you can spend more time, we could spend more time together in a mas controlled, kasi I think ang dami ng questions natin tonight. Yes. But of course, we want to answer as much as we can. Sige. Okay, so we'll go back to our case today. And ito po siya, Mommy Ray, you can refer back to this one. Ito yung case kanina, throwing and pushing ng mga objects kapag frustrated, also pulling ng hair if they deal with other kids. And they were asking, again, if okay lang ba, kasi yung OT daw na dati ay gusto kalma lang daw dapat yung approach. Kasi kapag nag-firm ka, baka mas lalong gawin ng kid. Now, our one lesson for tonight is the post that we had kanina sa page. And if you haven't liked it yet, please go to our Instagram page, also our Instagram page, our Facebook page. You can like it, also share it, and also share this live video if you learned a lot from tonight. And also use the caption na rin kung ano yung pinaka na-learn ninyo coming from this live session. Okay? Sige. So you can share this to your friends para mas marami pa. And of course, supporting the Autism Acceptance Month, we can also spread awareness and also acceptance sa kids natin with autism. Para, since mas marami yung makikinig sa atin, also we have there John Lawrence then joining us tonight. If kahit the people na pwedeng walang children with autism or might possible na they deal with hindi family member, classmate or workmate, could be a neighbor na merong autism, they could also deal with our children in a more understanding, more open, more accepting, and since accepting manner, okay? Para instead of us having to explain to them, mas ma-understand din nila kung saan tayo nanggagaling with our approach. And we end with our one lesson. We have saying no and teaching your child to respect boundaries. Boundaries is still a way of showing love. Yes, and kasi ang dami nag-isip sa atin na kapag pinagalitan or kapag na nagalit ka or nag-firm ka with your kid, it's not love anymore. Okay? So, love comes in two parts nga. Okay? You have the caring, yung fun, laughter lang, chill, parang friend-friend ka ng kid mo. But of course, they would be thankful if you would already teach them this early, how to understand boundaries, how to also know when to stop, how to control their impulses kasi their brains are still growing, and we want to take advantage that before they turn 7 or around that age, their brains are still maturing pa, and we want to take advantage of this very fast na brain growth ng kid natin to also work on their behaviors, work on their coping strategies kasi while they're young, okay, ma-practice na nila yung strategies on how to cope with their anxiety, with their anger, with their behaviors, catching themselves in these behaviors. Kasi I think we can already see how many people are having a hard time dealing with this one, even as adults. Diba? I think you've seen yung Will Smith na incident, diba? If we have kids, or yung mga Karen na videos, or yung nagalit, tapos pumatay, or yung nagalit, tapos nagwala, nagalit, tapos nakipag-away, road rage incidents, all these things are a matter of emotions and emotional regulation. And we can teach our kids to be able to avoid these when they turn into adults. Kasi ang hirap na matuto nito when we're adults. You can learn them, yes, but why not teach our kids at a young age para when they deal with, success already, when they deal with long-term goals, I think always sinasabi sa atin now na good things come to those who wait, but of course, good things come to, also to those who work hard for them. And when they go through times na mahirap, when it's frustrating, when it takes a long time, especially when they deal with finances or relationships or long-term goals, projects, their careers, hindi pack yung results. Hindi lang siya isang session, pack your life is fixed. So you want to give them, equip them with skills that will prepare them into long term na pang for life talaga na management skills ng sarili nila. 'Di ba? Yes. So in the smart kid, we're gonna deal with sensory integration, motor skills, the beginning foundations. In the kind kid, we're gonna deal with mental health, emotional regulation, and in the strong kid, we're gonna deal with uh, resilience and also executive functions. So with the goal of raising growth children, that's really my vision na tayo as adults, as parents, we shift our understanding of what makes a person successful kasi we're shifting so far away from yung dati na alam natin na you need to have good grades, you need to have perfect scores, tapos you'll be successful in life. And we see now na parang hindi pala siya ganun lang, di ba? Especially with the fast growth of technology and yung shift of the workplace to the home and ang daming changes. So kapag tinuruan lang natin yung kids natin about the what and the what's the correct response, we want to go even deeper and teach them how to identify their weaknesses, strengths, how to identify their emotions, regulate themselves para they can work toward long-term goals. And their brain, hindi lang siya biglaan na you have to focus, you have to be disciplined, you have to be parang mas kalma, mas regulated, ganyan, di ba? Younger age pa lang, their brains could already learn the strategies para they have more time to practice it. And then when they turn adults, we could parang mas mas gumaan lang man lang yung loob natin na when they become adults, mas kaya nila managing themselves so that they'll be prepared dealing with their career and their relationships. Okay, so that's it. Yes, Mommy Sophia, thank you. Yes, agree. Disciplining a child is challenging at first, but it pays off in the long run. Sobra, tama po yan. The first few weeks will always be a challenge, pero once you go through it, pag naging consistent kayo, you gain confidence, you gain trust in yourself, you gain trust din in your kid na kaya niya pala, kaya niya sumunod, kaya niya mag-manage the sarili niya. It's gonna be a lot smoother. Okay, so yun yung goal talaga natin with our kids. Okay, so it's not really to cure, di ba, you cure them or to have them come out of therapy na parang fix, you're a normal kid now, di ba? Kasi even kids without a diagnosis, they still need to learn these skills. And of course, we want our kid to prepare and be equipped talaga para ma-prepare pa sila lalo. Okay. And that's it for tonight. So we're gonna run through lang before we end. So inviting you, if you haven't registered yet, to the Smart Kid. Okay, so a 6-week, day 1 is tomorrow. So you're gonna learn to get inside your OT's mind, understand therapy activities para kayo yung pumili din ng activities at home. Plan your own growth time despite a very busy schedule. Teach your child to learn how to learn with the foundations of learning. And we have this program here, sensory integration, gross motor skills, fine motor skills, routine training, self-care skills, and application. And of course, yan siya, lahat ng to ita-target natin from the very foundations. Yung mga behaviors kanina, we're gonna deal with it step by step. And don't worry, you will have one-on-one with me na calls kasama siya sa program because of course, kahit group yung discussion natin, I want to make sure na you get results This is a paid course. We're gonna have 5,000 lang siya to reserve your slot, and this is on an installment basis. It will run for it will run for 6 weeks na group cost. I will make sure na you will get to learn as much as you can, lahat ng pwede niyong ma-learn about the foundations for learning so that you can come up learning these skills. So we have here para kayo din mismo marunong kayo mag-apply ng learnings at the end of the course. How to schedule growth time despite your busy schedule. We're gonna have yung growth time ninyo patterned in your day like a simulated therapy session para especially na yung max, di ba, usually na therapy session would be like 3 times a week or 2 times a week for your kid. So you could do simulated sessions at home, okay, na hindi din kayo mag-play or mag-target ng parang therapy throughout the day. What we want, pwede for 6 years old. Yes po, pwede for 6 years old, even as young as 3 or 2. May nag-ask sa email, we haven't replied it yet. I'm gonna reply after this. Kasi we're gonna deal with it po from the same way I discussed kanina, yung very foundations from the young, yung sensory motor hanggang yung pagka-late childhood na early adolescence. We're gonna cover all of that one po para hindi lang siya ninyo magamit sa kid ninyo for this current state. You can already see the milestones moving forward with your kid para mas mabilis din yung progress ninyo with your kid. Okay, para mas marunong kayo mag-target. And of course, see, despite your busy schedule, this is understanding na with the understanding na hindi nyo kaya gawin din yun every day ilang hours a day, okay, which is actually what I do not recommend din, na every day or parang lahat ng oras sa day na pwede nyo ipasok yung turo, kailangan nyo ipasok. Okay, you want to set teaching moments with your kid and also parts where they have to practice naturally yung skills na natuto nila in your session, okay, in your simulated session. And also, as we've said kanina, di ba, we've covered yung parang, what did we talk about? Yung adaptation, accommodation, and also teaching the kid. You're gonna cover both environment and the kid. Kasi, of course, your kid won't learn that in one session. So, my part na, while your kid is still learning, you want to make adaptation sa environment, okay? And then, ma-practice niya muna while nagde-develop pa yung kid mo. So, we're gonna match that one. We're gonna cover everything from sensory motor, moving up to yung kaya na niya mag-focus, and then modules now, worksheets, handwriting. Kasi we're gonna cover from gross motor kanina to fine motors, di ba? And the number 2 is how to choose activities. Okay, you have to know muna yung priority goals mo with your kid and then also choosing activities para you really get into the mind of your OT and with the goal of kapag ka nasa feedback time na ka with your OT, alam ko, di ba, kulang yung 10 to 15 minutes ng feedback time. So we want to really have you come out of the program understanding kung ano yung go through ng child ninyo in therapy. And of course, with that one, better din yung follow-up ninyo at home. And skill number 3, how to develop an activity plan. Kayo yung gagawa ng plan for your kid in the growth time. Kayo yung pipili. Ito yung activity 1, activity 2, activity 3. And then, bakit ganyan yung sequence? Why do we have the sequence? What to do if your kid doesn't follow? Paano mag-troubleshoot in case, like for example, may plan ka and then, oops, my kid is not focused today. Anong gagawin ko? Like, oops, my kid is having a tantrum, anong gagawin ko? So all that, and we're going to incorporate that one para you will be ready for the for managing with your child. So full is 13, one-time payment, and installment is 15 with a reservation of 15. With a reservation of 5,000 lang. It's spread out every 2 weeks, so until April 13, but we're extending it. Our day 1 is tomorrow, and then second payment will be before week 3 starts. And then before week 5 starts yung third payment. Okay? So register lang at Growth Smart Kid. Again, you're gonna learn, and this already includes an exclusive one-on-one call with me. Hindi lang siya group. Mamigi, yung 3, 2, 1. Oh, for this one? Oh, we don't have a certificate for the live videos, only for the yung behavior management with the Smart Kid. Behavior management by Black Sheep, but this one doesn't have a certificate. But for this one, see, Growth Smart Kid, it has a certificate at the end of the program na paano pala, pamaliit. Okay, and full-time, one payment is 13, and then installment is 5,000 slot. the certificate is at the end of the Smart Kit program because this will also gear you up for the Kind Kit and the Strong Kit. This one is sensory integration. Dito papasok yung drumming, tiptoeing, when to target it, ano yung approaches, all the relaxation strategies, the pangpa-alert ng kid ninyo if they're not focused, if they're not alert, if they're not mas slow yung responses nila. We're gonna cover all that in the course. And so you can register at bit.ly growth smart kit, growth small letters, smart kit, all caps. Ayan, the black sheet pumamigay, you have yung, you can chat sa Facebook page natin because that one is merong feedback form for it where you can request the certificate. Ayan siya. Okay, and that's it. Thank you so much for tonight. We spent more than 2 hours. Tama ba? Almost 3 hours. And thank you so much for your attention and your time. And always a pleasure to be with you, Grow Community 321 Grow. And thank you so much. Grow evening, everybody. That ends our live for today. I hope you learned something for tonight. And if you did, please share the live video. You can rewatch again. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're gonna have OTT TPs coming up, Occupational Therapy Tools and Tips Thursdays, where we give out tips on how you manage your kids. Also, we're gonna have some guidelines, more content, more fun with you guys. So I hope na you share pa and you watch the rest of our videos. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mommy Adessa. Thank you, Mommy Isa. Ayan. And thank you, Mommy Gay. Thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. And bye-bye. Okay. We'll end with this one. Thank you for joining 321 Grow.